Another fun-filled show
Yes,
tonight.
sir.
Good old California. I think we're gonna have to bust in quick. I don't know when Ken's coming on. He's an African. He's an American that hunts in Africa, and he said it's absolutely uh, affordable to hunt in Africa. Hey, I told these guys it's not 6:02 yet, so I don't want nobody expecting me here at 6. I can only do like increments when I schedule this, or I would put it at 6:02. Anyways, we're gonna jump right into that California deal. It's crazy. I don't know. Did
Yes,
you
sir.
guys, any of you guys, watch that
Yeah,
hearing?
I
Yeah.
watched the whole thing.
Crazy. Same story, same anti-hunters using the same science that they always have.
Science from
So,
20 years ago that's not relevant and cherry picked.
and I think my mic is different. You guys hearing an echo on my side?
I'm not.
Crap. That's crazy. You're not hearing an echo. That's good.
Put your finger in one ear.
Yeah. Let me change my audio real quick. I don't know what's going on. Default LED. Oh yeah, it's on my TV. Let's try this. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
I can hear you better. Look forward to your podcast and your reliability to do it every week. I'm here every week, at least. Ken is a great guy. I've 100 for 35 years. Rick made me put him on. I called Ken and said, "Hey, you want to come on?" He got telling a lot of stories already. I said, "No, you got to stay for the show." Anyways, let's just go to California real quick before he jumps on. He jumps on. He's gonna have a lot of good stories.
Yeah.
Um, California, the AB 1038. The biggest problem was that hunting word in there, and they caught it in the end. Even though it didn't say they were allowed to hunt, they said it gave the game and fish an opportunity to say, if we come to that, it can hunt. And then to break it down real quick, they they tried to get hazing with hounds and all this stuff. The anti said no, your dogs would get killed. There's other ways to do it. But I'm just going to say, in my opinion, right now, it's not the trash cans they're digging in. It's not the houses they're breaking into, the cars. It's not even the people they're killing or attacking. It's the 80,000 bears, and they have an excuse in here that says there's not that many. The game and fish is wrong. So let me kick it off. Let me see.
Yeah.
Let me see. What do we got here? I think I went out of order. So where's the 4 minute? So this is a 4 minute deal, and this is the people who are for it gave their little speech. So this is that little speech right here to say why they want it, and then I'll put the anti speech to why they want it.
To the staff. They were amazing, and it's not an easy issue to talk about. My communities in California know what the rest of the state is beginning to understand, that predators and bears are out of control in California. I represent 11 very rural counties in the North State. The state's estimate of bear population has more than doubled in the past decade, and conflict between people and bears is rising. Half of those bears are estimated to be in my district. The populations of wolves and mountain lions have also skyrocketed. Bears don't share territory with wolves and mountain lions. When the population of one increases, the territory over the other two increase in response. They are expanding, not my communities. AB 1038 is not about harming animals. It is about preserving their natural behavior and ensuring public safety in a humane way. From the Oregon border to the Tahoe Basin, families, farmers, and ranchers in my district are coming into contact with more and more bears as they break into dumpsters, cars, and even homes. Almost daily, I get a call or text from a rancher who lost another calf or cow, just like my cow that you saw on Ag Day, from a predator. Every week, sheriff deputies are called about more car break-ins and home invasions or a threatened pet. This problem is the worst in Tahoe, which has the highest density of black bears in the entire world. California's predator problem is unique. For rural communities like mine, public safety is not a hypothetical issue. People who travel from the Bay Area to visit the Sierras and the Cascades do not live here. For my constituents and I, this is daily life. It is the protection of our children as predators break into school cafeterias and prowl playgrounds, the security of our farms as livestock get mauled in pastures, and the safety of our beloved pets who are stolen from our porches and backyards. It is a constituent waking up to a blood-covered porch just yesterday of a kill on their front step. Predators are no longer afraid of people and dogs. Unfortunately, this has led to the death of an elderly woman named Patrice Miller, who was mauled by a bear in her home in Downeyville in Sierra County. Despite iron bars over her window and a padlocked sheet of wood over her door, the bear broke into her house and ate her alive. I encourage you to think about what you would do if a bear stalked you or your family for weeks on end. Predators are fast becoming a public safety crisis and a threat to agriculture, property, and pets. Assembly Bill 1038 puts tools back in the hands of wildlife managers to reduce conflict between people and bears before they escalate into dangerous encounters and death. Using science-based practices, this bill allows the non-lethal pursuit of bears with trained dogs, helping bears relearn their natural fear of people and dogs while pushing them back into their natural habitats without harming them. AB 1038 is a solution in between handing out a brochure and killing a bear that has become terminally accustomed to human food. It is about safety, science, and ecological balance. This bill does not mandate more hunting. It restores science-based management, protecting both people and bears. Wildlife managers and scientists with the Department of Fish and Wildlife will have the authority to establish when, where, and how this practice can be implemented effectively. They may never decide to use it, but it gives them a tool in their toolbox to do their job. AB 1038 ensures rural living can coexist with the incredible wildlife that makes my district so special to visitors around California and to my constituents. I love bears and all the wildlife that I get the privilege to live with, but we must responsibly manage wildlife. This bill is about smarter management, expanding tools that are already used by CDFW to licensed professionals. We're choosing to be responsible stewards of our wildlife and our communities, and I'm proud to author AB 1038. And I'm committed to keeping our communities safe and our bears wild. I respectfully ask for your aye vote. And I'm joined today by Sierra County Sheriff Michael Fisher and Kyle Garrett, a large carnivore biologist and bear conflict expert. I also have in the audience El Dorado County Sheriff Jeff Lakoff, who has Tahoe in his jurisdiction for technical support if needed.
There you go.
It's well
That's
said.
well said. I mean, it states everything. You have a biologist, you have sheriffs that are taking the calls, and you have a district leader saying, hey, we have a problem up here. So, and then it goes, that's the longest one. This one's 3 minutes. I try to keep them a minute, minute and a half, but, I just had to stop. I have a bunch of them through here and but this is the biologist. This is, let me see where I'm at. This is I believe, no. This is the sheriff, I believe. That's going to kind of tell you, and this one's 3 minutes as well.
Well, good morning. I'm Sierra County Sheriff Mike Fisher, and I appreciate the opportunity to address the committee. I wrote a couple of different things down, and I think that I'm just going to go off the seat of my pants instead of reading something to you. So in 2023, we had the first documented human death with a black bear. It happened about 75 yards from my office, right in Downeyville. The initial portion of the investigation, we did believe that the individual had passed away from natural causes and then a bear had broken in. At the conclusion of that coroner's report, that was not the case. Our independent pathologist found, after having discussions with pathologists in Alaska, and confirmed that it was a probable bear mauling. Leading up to this event, we had several habituated bears that were in our community daily. Both myself and my deputies were out on a regular basis hazing these bears out of our communities. We have a big mountain bike race every year. Little town of 300 people blows up to about 4,000 people on a weekend. I spent the entire day driving back and forth through our community, honking my air horn at these bears that were coming through the community. Now, our visitors thought it was great. They thought, oh, how cute is it? There's bears right here in town. Those that visit Tahoe on a regular basis probably see that. That's new to us. Sierra County's population has not grown. Our building and our footprint of our county has not expanded since probably back in the 30s. Over the past couple of years, the amount of bear issues, everything from property damage, bears breaking into occupied and unoccupied homes, vehicles, to the bear that broke into Patrice Miller's home and killed her. I'm supporting this bill because we need additional tools to keep these bears out of our communities. I would estimate approximately 200 calls for service last year. Of those 200 calls, and these are all bear related, of those 200 calls, probably 3/4 were either property damage or bears breaking into people's homes. So any tool that we can use to help get these bears out of our community and back into the forest, I am in support of. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much.
Ken Moody.
That's me.
We was talking about California.
I saw that little bit of the video clip there, that never-ending battle to fight with the people in California.
Well, it just kind of bleeds over to Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington. It already done bled over to those guys.
Well, the great Republic of the West.
Absolutely. Wild West that turning not so wild.
Yeah, it's getting a little more domesticated, eh?
So, man, if we start talking to Ken, he has a lot of stories. How long you got, Ken?
Well, I can always spin a good story.
Because we'll probably talk about this for a whole hour. Should we just get with Ken and finish the California thing later, guys?
Yeah, we need to, because Ken's probably. Where are you, Ken?
He's 8 o'clock right now where he's at.
Yeah, I'm currently in Tennessee, but I leave for Africa
Okay.
on Sunday, so you guys caught me with just a few days to spare.
Yeah, because in Africa, depending on where, you could be 8 hours ahead of us.
Yeah, definitely. Well, there's 7 hours there ahead of me here, so that's 9 hours ahead of you.
Yeah.
If you're 2 hours behind me, you can do that math.
That's a lot of math for us guys, trust me.
Yeah.
We only have 2 hands. Well, tell us who you are. We'll get you out of the way, and if you want to hang around and talk crap about California, you can.
You know what? I have some good clients that come from California. I mean, just speaking of California, once you get outside of the cities, in the rural areas, there's a tremendous sporting tradition there in that state.
North.
And it is a shame that it gets dominated by the voters in the cities. That voting bloc controls everything that occurs in California. And that's just a shame. But anyway, back to me. My name is Ken Moody. I'm the director and owner of Ken Moody Safaris, safari company that operates primarily in South Africa, but we also operate in Zimbabwe and Mozambique. I've hunted every Southern Africa country over there, have been there for 30 years, and we're going into our 31st year this season, starting next week. We primarily hunt Cape buffalo. Dangerous game is our primary bag, but we do hunt a lot of plains game as well. So I've been doing it 30, like I said, going on 31 years. I started when I was 32. So you can do the math on that as well.
Yeah, it's still tough for us.
Yeah.
You're putting a lot of faith in our intelligence.
I've been doing it a long time.
So tell us where you are over there. Kind of give us a layout of what you do in what area.
Well, we have been operating in Limpopo, my goodness, since I started. I've hunted every province over there, but We primarily operate in Limpopo, which is just north of Johannesburg. And currently we're in the southern Limpopo. So if you were to land in Johannesburg and drive 1 hour, 45 minutes north, that's where we are. We're in the Waterberg Mountains, close to a town called Bella Bella.
And we had a talk today about how affordable it could be to hunt over there. Cause I think everybody thinks Africa and they think $20,000,
Yeah, you know,
$15,000.
it's all dependent on what you want to do and what you want to hunt. Like I said, dangerous game hunting, that gets expensive, obviously. But if you're just hunting plains game, basic stuff like kudu, wildebeest, zebra, you can come over and do a week hunt for as little, for $4,000. And that is exceptionally inexpensive when compared to some North American hunts that you're going to spend more on and shoot less. And you don't pay that price if you don't bag your game. So that is another plus, to Africa. And we do quite well with the plains game as well. So just about anybody can afford to come over.
What's a good buffalo hunt cost?
Buffalo hunt is $12,950. That's for a week. It's inclusive of daily rates and trophy fee. The daily rates are your accommodations, meals, professional hunter, tracker, trophy prep, skinning, caping, and delivery of the trophy to the taxidermy on that side, where it will be prepped, for either dipped and packed and sent to you as raw goods or fully mounted.
Yeah. That's not bad.
And we was talking about dangerous hunts, and you was talking about how many elephants and those buffalo kill, how many people they kill.
Yeah, we lose honestly and sincerely, we lose about one professional hunter a year to buffalo. We've already had one killed this year, early in the season already. They are the most dangerous animal on the planet because of their tenacity and their inability to die. Elephant is also very dangerous, but elephant are easy to see and hit. They're a big animal coming at you, but a buffalo comes in low and fast, and they're just extremely dangerous. I mean, it just takes a lot of firepower to knock one down. Once they get that adrenaline surge, they turn into, the animal of rumor and legend you've heard of, Black Death, which is just an animal that becomes an impregnable tank, basically, and he comes after you, and you have to hit him, sometimes often with big bores and well-placed shots.
So you don't just drive around in a Jeep and they stand there for you like the movie?
When you go on a game drive or in a park or on a reserve in Buffalo, they're bovine. They're out feeding towards dark. Sometimes you can drive right by them, and they'll be out there 100 yards or so, and they pay no attention because they're acclimated to vehicles. But when you're on foot, totally different. As soon as your feet hit the ground, then they're fully alert. And if they catch your scent, they don't waste any time getting out of the area. So, yeah, they're just two different animals, They're just basically, like I said, a wild bovine initially, like you would find a lot of places in the world, but Cape buffalo are different because they live in an area where they are heavily preyed upon by lions. So they are not like an Australian water buffalo or anything in South America where they don't have any predators. Cape buffalo just have a will to live, and they know when danger's around, it's time to bow up, and they turn green and they bow up when it comes time.
They get on the defense real quick.
Yeah, they're very fast. People think they're clumsy and slow, but they're very agile and they're very fast.
Well, it's like the elephant too, right? You think it's just a big, dumb, slow animal.
It is, and an elephant has no natural predators. They're not afraid of you. They're easy to approach if you get the wind right. And as you're approaching elephants, they'll usually give you signs that they know you're there. They'll start flapping their ears forward a little bit, giving you kind of a warning. And once you get too far into their comfort zone, they'll break and run. But when they get wounded, they can really turn into a very dangerous animal as well. And they come at you fast and furious. I've had some instances where elephant have charged. And I'm going to tell you something. I don't care who you are and how much you talk around the fire, but when it's an elephant and it's you, everything on your body's going to shrink up. and hopefully you just go into instinctive mode, you know, to protect yourself. But that surviving these things takes a lot of years of experience, and you just have to get into you know, like I said, instinctive mode where you've done it a lot and your gun comes to shoulder naturally, and you know, and the gun goes off and all that. It's not something you really have time to think about when it's dangerous. But you know, that's why a lot of clients get themselves in trouble, because they're not used to that sort of thing. And we actually have professionals that get shot by clients from time to time, because it's you know, it's a nerve-wracking situation when a buffalo charges and they just pull the trigger and, you know, hit the wrong thing.
Yeah, they forget to pull it to their shoulder first.
They just pull the trigger and all. I mean, I've been shot at twice by guys. You know, one was just trying to cycle around into the chamber and pull the trigger on a bolt action, and shot right by my head. And another guy shot when an elephant was charging and just pulled his gun up and shot as it was coming, you know, up. The barrel was coming up, and it's crazy. You know, you just have to be involved in a lot of this, and to get used to it, and especially get used to handling a charge. And in the end, you don't really remember what happened. You know, when you're successful, you don't remember what happened. You just remember that you did it, and that's the way it's supposed to be. It's just supposed to be an instinctive reaction. If you have time to think about it, you know, then you're really not in that much danger. And that's why I primarily, always, I use a double rifle. I don't use a bolt action in backup mode. It's always a double, because you've got your first barrel, and then you've got your oh shit barrel, and that's it.
If you're not out of there by then.
Yeah, you're not going to be cycling rounds and shooting and all. I mean, all that's fantasy. That buffalo is there in your face pretty quick, and you've got a primary shot, and then you've got your last second shot, hopefully, that saves you. And that's all you got time for. You're not going to be jacking rounds in. And so many guys short stroke anyway. You know, you just have to be there to see it, to believe it can happen. But it can happen to anybody. You know, it can happen to anybody.
Do you carry a 460 or what?
I carry a 500 nitro.
500.
Matter of fact, this is a 500 nitro bullet, 570 grains, solid brass, cutting edge solid. This is what I use.
And that still probably don't feel like it's enough.
Well, at times it does, and I had, but I tell you what, these solids out of a 470 or bigger will shoot all the way through a buffalo lengthwise. So you don't have to worry about a penetration. You're going to get the penetration. You just have to put it in the right spot.
Gotcha.
I bet you get a lot of guys trying to use some little bitty rifles, don't you?
Well, you know, I don't want to say legally, but traditionally the smallest caliber you can use is a 375 H&H. But that is a decent client rifle for buffalo, but I recommend 416. 416 Remington or Rigby is the perfect client gun for Cape Buffalo. That 400 grain bullets moving at about 2,300 feet per second. And man, it works like magic on buffalo. If you put it in the right spot, if you do your job, that buffalo he's going to hit the ground. 375 will work. It's a bit light, with the 300 grain bullet, but it is a great all-arounder because you can use it for plains game as well as buffalo. And if you hit it perfect, if you hit it right with 375, he's going to roll over as well.
I got to ask you the controversial one, though. How you feel about 9.3 for buffalo?
I've got a 9.3.74 rimmed over and under double. I shot a buffalo 9 times with that thing once before he fell over. I immediately bought a 470. So that's what I feel about the 9.3 as far as backing up or on it can work on buffalo. It's a little light. It shoots a little slower. It shoots a 286 grain bullet as opposed to 300 grain normally in factory loads. And it's also moving at about 2150 to 2200. It's not moving at 2350 or 2300 plus like your other rounds are. So it's a tad light, but with a well-placed shot and a high-quality bullet, it will work.
So what is how hard is it to get over there and hunt?
It's simple, guys think you got to get a bunch of shots, and you don't need any shots at all. You don't need any medication at all, depending on the area you're going to. And in South Africa, where we hunt, malaria-free areas or low possibility, So you don't need to take any type of medication. All you really need is a passport. If you have a passport, man, you can fly over. It's a piece of cake, really. It's no issue. If you're bringing guns, you have to prepare for that, and you have to get a U.S. Customs Form 4457 from your customs office. That is a declaration of goods that shows that's your rifle, you own it, and you have to fill out a South African Police Services 520 form, which is an application for a temporary import permit. And along with your flight itinerary, picture, your passport, and all that, but you get an import permit easy. It's just a paperwork thing. Or you can come to camp and use one of their rifles. We rent them pretty cheap for guys that don't want to go through the hassle of dragging a rifle through airports. But there's nothing easier than coming to Africa. You just book the flight, get on the plane, and as long as you have a passport, that's all you need.
And you hear a lot about how when that elephant or whatever hits the ground, that them natives, the people there, have it done in 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's another misconception. People think that trophy hunting, and I don't know where this came from. I'm sure negative propaganda, but people believe, some misinformed people believe that a trophy hunter shoots the animal, takes his picture, takes the cape and horns, and leaves the rest in the bush, which is nonsense. Every morsel, especially in Africa, every morsel is consumed, including the internal organs. Every bit of that buffalo is utilized, or elephant. And in the case of an elephant, we're talking about animals you don't just load up on the back of a truck. The natives usually, or the indigenous people usually show up between 50 and 100, and they've got axes, knives, buckets, and they take, once you get the tusks out, they will take every strip and piece of that elephant, and they can knock that thing out in like under 2 hours. That everything's gone: bones, internal organs, meat, absolutely everything. There's nothing but a wet spot on the ground where he was, when the people are finished collecting all the meat and the bones. So yeah, nothing is left in Africa. Everything is utilized. Every bit of meat is utilized. We put 3 tons of meat last year ourselves back into the community. So yeah, it all gets used, and clients are participating in that and providing food that these people otherwise wouldn't get. They subsist on what is called pop, which is like a grit, a corn or a maize grit. I mean, that's their staple. That's what they eat pretty much every day. Protein, meat, they don't get a lot of unless hunters provide it. So we make sure we provide a lot of it.
So when they get that, when they know there's a hunter in town, they're hovering.
What you can't believe, and I've been in the deepest, darkest parts of Africa, as far out as you could be deployed, where you fly in, in a plane, get out on the grass airstrip, the plane leaves, and you're there. And when that gun goes, and you'll walk 12 miles a day on an elephant hunt's usually 8 to 12 miles a day on track, and 12 miles a day is average, because elephant walk real fast, and you have to take the track and close the distance. And then once you find the elephant, he has to be, to the right standard. But once that thing hits the ground, that gunshot goes off. I bet it's not 30 minutes till you start hearing the bucket brigade coming through the bush, single file, and 100 people strung out, and they just show up. I mean, you're out in the middle of nowhere. You don't see anybody anywhere ever until the gun goes off, and then like bush telegraph, they show up, man, and they take everything, and they pack it out in buckets. They pack it out on their shoulders, and for us, it's good because they pack out the tusks. On the buffalo, they pack out the cape and horns for us, everything, because we're generally miles and miles and miles and miles from the vehicle. We're not anywhere close to it. So we pack all that stuff up, but it's amazing how they know when we're hunting, and they know when they hear that gun go off that there's something on the end to eat, and the village will show up in force to pack it out. So yeah, it's something to see. I've got some old video footage somewhere of it, and you just can't believe it's like they're following you around, but they're not. But they show up within half an hour, I'm telling you.
Oh boy. So they can you get anything out of the country?
Yeah, you get everything out of the country, not meat wise, but trophy wise.
Tusk.
The tusk, absolutely. There are some countries like Mozambique where you cannot export ivory, but Zimbabwe, 100%, you can get the ivory out. It's all CITES driven, you have to have a CITES permit. And once the CITES export permit is in hand, then the outfitter or the hunting company can sell the hunt. And the tusks come out, everything comes out. That belongs to you. You pay a trophy fee for it, and the trophy belongs to you.
But you
Good
have
deal.
to you have to ship it, right? You can't when that stupid deal with that lion they called Cecil.
Oh yeah, well that I know all about Mr. Cecil the lion, and that was
But
shot. That was shot just off Wanky National Park, but that's a different
yeah,
story.
no, that's a different. What I was getting at was, I've been to Africa 4 times, and I always fly Delta, and
Yeah.
Delta used to fly those trophies, but they quit flying anything, right?
That is the major problem. And another thing people are a little bit ignorant about is, shipping costs have gone up, and they think everybody, that we're all over there super greedy and that the shippers are getting greedy and overcharging. But it's because the airlines aren't flying anymore. You've only got 2 to 3 airlines that will fly trophies out of Africa. Delta won't. All of these American carriers, they just bent over to the animal rights people when they started crying about ship trophy cargo shipments coming over. So they just quit doing it. United stopped, Delta stopped, and now you got Turkish Air. The Middle Eastern Airlines still fly them over because the Middle East guys don't care anything about what an animal rights person thinks. So they fly it over, but they have a monopoly on that. And then there's only so much space on a plane. So, you're paying premium prices to get your trophy shipped over now as compared to, back in the 90s when it was super cheap because everybody was flying it.
Yeah.
I'm looking. Can I see people make small tables out of the feet? Can a person get the feet out raw, or does it have to be finished product?
You can. I'll tell you how the trophies work. Once it's on the ground, on our end, we do full caping, salting, and prep of the trophy. We then deliver it to the taxidermy in South Africa, and I'm just going to use South Africa as an example, where it goes in for dip and pack. If you're going to have a taxidermist here in the States do it, dipping and packing is a chemical bath where they'll literally soak these skin trophies in a vat of chemicals to kill, bacteria, bugs, anything that may be on there. This is a USDA requirement. Anything that may be on there that the United States does not want brought into this country. After it's dipped and packed, it has to be inspected, to ensure it was done properly. That's a paperwork thing, and then it's shipped It's shipped back to the States to your receiving taxidermist, or once you can actually go to the port of entry and claim the trophies yourself, or you can hire a broker to do it for you, and then they'll clear it at the customs office and then ship it to you. But once you have them, they're yours to mount at any time, immediately, or they're prepped so you can hold on to them for a year or two before you mount them. But yeah, you can ship any part that's exportable can come through. And if it's an elephant or a leopard or any other CITES required animal, then you need a CITES permit, but that permit covers the entire skin and skull and tusk, teeth, or whatever, horns.
You have taxidermists over there that can do it and ship it, or can it be shipped?
We have a great taxidermist. There's a lot of good taxidermists over there, and there are some that are not so great. We use Highfield Taxidermy, which is they do really good work, and we can actually take our clients by their studio to see the work so that you feel comfortable with letting them do it, and then they'll do the entire shipping. They'll do the entire mounting process and ship it to you when it's finished. That usually takes about a year, and then you'll get it.
You're talking about the low cost. So you said it's $4,000. You come over and hunt. What do you get to hunt for that $4,000?
Blue wildebeest, an impala, and a warthog.
So you get 3 animals with that?
Yep, and you can also add on and just pay trophy fees if you wanted to shoot an additional impala, for $550. You could do that, or you could add on a kudu or a gemsbuck. We have 18 species in our area, so you can just add by paying a trophy fee. You can add on as you go.
Gotcha.
A package is it's the most economical way to do it because it includes your daily rates. Normally the daily rate is $450 a day you would pay, and then you pay trophy fees on top of that. And the $450 a day includes accommodations, meals, drinks, pH, all of that. But that's included in a package plus the 3 animals. So you're really getting a pretty good deal with a package. And then you can just add on the other trophies, as you want.
And then all the way up to what? Elephant's kind of your most expensive?
Elephant, lion, a wild lion, not a captive bred lion. There are CBL lions in South Africa. Those are hunts that I actually do not do. I'm just not a proponent of shooting a captive bred and released lion to be shot. But those are relatively inexpensive. Those are not exportable under any condition. You cannot export a CBL. But a wild lion hunt, it can get pricey. They're on par with elephant.
What's an elephant cost to come over?
That depends if you're doing a non-exportable or exportable. A non-exportable elephant will cost you about $30. An exportable elephant can cost you, man, on the low end, I'm going to say around $40 and up. A lot of areas have hunt prices based on tusk weight. So, like a 60-pounder, you're talking about a, $60,000 to $70,000 elephant hunt. If you're shooting a standard elephant, that's going to be in the 35 to 45-pound range. You can do that one for $45,000.
What do you advise a client to use for elephant as far as rifle?
Well, one that he shoots accurately, and a 375 will work. On an elephant and rhino, you use solids. So you use a high-quality solid of a 375, and you brain shoot elephant. That's the way I prefer. I don't like body shooting an elephant. If you take a sight-on brain shot, he'll drop right there in front of you instantly, on the ground dead, and then it's easy recovery. A body shot, even with a double lung shot, the elephant can still go a few miles, and you're not really 100% sure, if a great shot or not with an elephant. So we try to do sight-on brain shots. 416 again. 416 is the best caliber for a client for dangerous game hunting, in my opinion. And again, a solid. Elephant are shot very close. You'll rarely shoot one past 40 yards. Most of the times we shoot elephant 25, 30 yards. Last one we shot was probably 25, 30 yards. He turned to face us, and he wasn't happy we were there. I had a client who could really shoot, didn't get nervous, as the elephant approached, and he did a frontal shot, and he dropped him right in front of us. So, the elephant is easy and an easier hunt than, say, buffalo. As far as when you find the elephant, getting to that stage is hard because you're walking 12 miles every day. But once you find the elephant, you get the wind right, you can get very close because they're not afraid of you at all. I mean, they know they can come over there and make your day miserable if they want to. So they will, they'll give you room to move in and get a good shot. Now, I will tell you, the first elephant hunt I did was with Ted Nugent, and that was exciting because,
I'll bet.
He wanted to use his bow or what?
Well, if I didn't have to sign an NDA, I would tell you how that went. But
Oh, I bet.
But no, he used a rifle. He shot it with a rifle, 375. He made a perfect shot. Ted is really an outstanding rifle shot, and he doesn't get a lot of credit for that because he mostly bow hunts.
Yeah.
But he shot. This was a damage permit type elephant that was coming from Botswana into South Africa and was destroying crops, and we got a permit to take it, and he made a perfect shot on it. I mean, it piled up right in front of us, no issues at all. But that was fun. That was my first experience doing one, and I enjoyed doing it with him. He's a positive guy about everything, and we had a great experience, and so I enjoyed that. But I've done about 100 or so elephants since then, and really never had any issues except one time we kind of had an issue. But elephant are they're big, they're easy to see, and when they charge, they'll bluff charge. They'll usually come in with their head up and flapping and trumpeting and making noise and throwing dirt at you. That's a bluff. But when their head's down and their ears are back against their head, that's serious. They're coming in low and fast, ears down. You pretty much just get ready because you're going to have to put him down.
Any small cats?
Yeah, we do some small cats. We do quite a bit of night hunting, and we're set up for it, with infrared scopes and trail cams, cell phone activated trail cams and all that. We know when the animals are coming in. We get a pattern sit down for like bush pig and civet cat and caracal and genet and some of these other things. And, you know, we normally hunt them over bait at night with all the equipment we use for that. So yeah, we do small cats from time to time. I've got a party coming over next year. They're doing a lot of night hunting, and I caution them trying not to do too much day and night hunting because, you know, you're spending a lot of time out there at night, and then you got to get up early in the morning to go hunting during the day. You're not getting a lot of rest. So they're going heavy on the night hunting and light on the day hunting.
Tim said if I was to go to Africa, I would find a honey badger? Honey,
Yeah,
it's supposed to be honey badger.
Honey
And make it my honey. Knowing Tim, it's probably hiney badger.
Well, it can be if you get in the wrong position. Honey badger hunt, you do exactly like a baited leopard hunt. I mean, it is exactly with the microphones. I mean, the whole 9 yards. And we've shot them with crossbows and, you know, small caliber rifles and all that. And they are super cool to hunt. A lot of fun. And I have to tell you, though, boy, you get a wounded hunter, those Jack Russells, they earn their money.
Oh, yeah, you do hunt some dogs. You did say that. You use the Jack Russells for some stuff.
Yeah, Jack Russell's the ultimate. I'm telling you, they'll go down the hole with a honey badger. And I wish they wouldn't. But you want to talk about a dog that has no fear? Jack Russell Terrier has no fear. They attack buffalo. They go after everything. You know, they just all heart and not a whole lot of defense.
Yep.
But yeah, we use Jack Russells specifically on wounded buffalo. You know, if we get a wounded buffalo and it looks like we need the dogs, we bring in a couple of Jack Russells and drop them on the track. And a buffalo can't do anything with a Jack. Jack Russell's too small. He'll swing his head. He'll do everything he can because they harass him. They nip at the back. They'll run around and run circles around him. They'll grab him on the heels, you know, and force him to swing around. And while they're doing that, you know, you're moving in and getting the client a nice, close finishing shot. But I have to tell you, it's exciting when you hear those dogs open up on a wounded buffalo because you know you got a 1 ton of trouble waiting on you at the other end, and usually they know who brought the dogs.
Yeah. Any other questions, guys? I think we need some couple good stories. You said you had some good stories for us.
Yeah, I do have some stories. I tell you, I was doing I'll tell you a rhino story first. We were doing a Dangerous 7 hunt, and I was doing it with Bob Fulkrod, who, you know, he's a Bass Pro spokesperson, and we were doing it for Mossy Oak. And we went to Zimbabwe, and we were knocking stuff out pretty quick. The elephant and the buffalo, we knocked out pretty quick. We didn't get our cat on that trip because we were using dogs, but we did get a cat on the trip the next year over bait. But anyway, we got all of that done. We got down to the rhino. And he had his cameraman there, but his cameraman had to fly out to do something else. And stupidly, and I'll preface this by saying I was a whole lot younger then. Stupidly, I said, you know what? I'll run the camera. Don't worry about it. It's just a rhino. Rhinos aren't any, you know, rhinos are docile. They're not any problem. So we get on this rhino and we track it. And every time we try to get close, it breaks and runs. And it's a cow and a bull and a calf, and they're staying together. And they run every time we get close, they run. And this went on for hours and hours and hours. You know, we just couldn't get the wind right. But finally we got the wind right, and we closed in for a shot. And I had the camera on tripod, and I'm filming the hunter over the shoulder just like it's supposed to be. And just as Bob was about to squeeze off the shot, the rhino started to turn. And when he shot, it kind of pulled into the front of the shoulder, and the rhino turned, and the bull and the cow ran off to our left. And I remember he jacked around in, and I'm staying in the camera trying to follow him, but the wind was blowing that way. So as soon as they caught our scent, they turned and charged right to us side by side. I mean, the bull and the cow. And I remember looking in that viewfinder, and this is the days before you had a fold out viewfinder and all that. You know, these are real cameras way back in the day. And I'm in that viewfinder, and all I see is a rhino out of the bush heading right for the camera. And I'm like, I look up, and the rhino's coming straight at us. So I turn to get out of the way, and the rhino runs straight at Bob, and Bob backs up, and the cow comes after him, and he sticks his hand out and puts his hand on this rhino as it goes by. And fortunately, you know, rhino can't see. They're really poor eyesighted. So it shot by, and the bull came straight at the camera. And our PH, I was using a PH that worked for me at the time. He hit the thing at 5 steps right in the top of the head. But the momentum of the rhino was so fast, or so much, that it just came forward like a sled with his head up and rolled over the camera and died with his head on top of the camera with all of it just standing there. So yeah, that was a little bit spooky.
That's a pucker factor.
That was a pucker factor. And then one day, you know, we were hunting elephant in Zimbabwe, and I had one of my best clients. He's a really good guy, but this was back in the probably early 2000s. And he'd shot buffalo, and he'd shot rhino with me, and he shot lion with me, and he'd shot all this stuff. And we were doing a 14-day hunt, and it was day 12, and we still hadn't bagged an elephant. And I'm like, man, starting to get desperate, you know. And as we were driving back to camp, we saw these 2 elephant bulls off to our right, just walking, you know, down the mountain, and they seemed to be all alone. So we got out real quick and took off and got on top of the hill, and we could just see them walk down in a thicket. And it was about midday at that stage. And my PH said, listen, I'm going to take the client in, just him, because it's going to be close and they're just there, and you stay here with the tracker. You know, we don't want too many people. We don't want to make too much noise. And I said, no problem. So I saw them going down the hill and enter the thicket. And I'm just standing there holding my rifle, and we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting, and nothing happens. And then all of a sudden, I mean, all hell broke loose. We heard this trumpeting constant coming from all directions, these elephants screaming, and I could see the bush erupt with elephant flying out of it. And then this one took a beeline on me, and he just started coming right at me. And I remember raising my rifle up and just, you know, holding the bead on him as he got closer. And I'm like, man, and you know, you don't want to shoot an elephant you're not supposed to shoot. Game department comes out, officials come out, paperwork. Were you really in danger? You know, you have to have a witness.
Yeah. How do they have evidence if those guys can clean that 2 hours?
Yeah. You don't have a big elephant track on your chest. But anyway, I'm holding on that thing. He comes up and he stops and he just looks at me, you know, and he's about 15 yards away, and he's mad and he's throwing his head around. But I'm thinking this is just a bluff. He's trumpeting as loud as he can. And that's scary, you know, you're hearing an elephant, woo, right in front of you. He's throwing dirt at me. And I'm standing there with the tracker, and I'm not moving. I'm just holding the bead. And he just throws his head and he runs off to the side. And then I hear another one runs up behind me and runs by at about 5 yards right to my left and runs back down in the thicket. And all, you know, and then all of a sudden, as loud and busy as it got, it went dead quiet, and there were no sounds, and we heard nothing. And I waited and I waited, and I thought, those elephants have killed my client and my PH. I mean, that's the only thing I could come up with. So I got my tracker there, and I said, listen, I think they're dead. And he looked at me and goes, I think you're right. And I thought, now we got to walk in this thicket and find these 2 guys. And, you know, an elephant stomping you, I mean, that's
the worst of the worst.
That's nothing you want to go look at. You know, it's not a peaceful death. And there's going to be a lot of messy parts. So I start walking down there, and I'm thinking, here we go. And I still didn't hear anything. And I started into the thicket there where I last saw them go into. And just as I was walking in, they were coming out, and they were fine. And the client was just standing there. He was terrified. He was just
in shock.
And I asked my PH, I said, what happened? He said, a leaf. I said, what are you talking about? He said, we were on that bull on the sticks. He said, we were 10 yards away. I mean, right in front of it. And he just wouldn't pull the trigger. And the client's name was Andy. I said, Andy, what's going on, man? He said, I'm in the scope, and I got the crosshair right there, you know. And on a side brain shot, you want to go about a hand width in front of the ear hole, about that far. And he said, and this leaf just kept floating in. And I'm like, you know, that leaf's not going to stop a 300 grain solid. And he goes, yeah, I know, but he kept messing with my head. And finally they caught their wind, and those 2 elephant were actually part of a herd, and there was about 30 to 40 elephant in there. So when they spooked, it was like flushing a covey of quail, but it was elephant. So they just held tight in there to the trees, and they flushed all the elephant out towards me. So that
they probably said, "Do you hear anything? I think they're dead."
Yeah, they probably thought I was dead, but I was
Mhm.
sure they were. But yeah, we've had some experiences. I just finished a book. I wrote a book called Bulletproof, and that's 30 years of hunting buffalo, and it's all buffalo hunting. And I've got a lot of stories in there, about near misses and calls and how we've had to stop a few charges. And that's a great book. I'm selling it now, but I won't be in the States to sell it. So back in October, I'll start up again. But I do have a story in there about a client I had in Zimbabwe. And man, I booked this guy. He's a great client. He came with me, hunted plains game before, but he was really heavy and out of shape. He was a
The
doctor.
houndsman?
No,
Oh,
no, he was a doctor. So he was out of shape, and no, I get what you're saying now, but no, he was out of shape. And he wanted to go to Zimbabwe. And I said, listen, man, Jeff, his name was Jeff. I said, Jeff, we go up to Zimbabwe. That's hard hunting, man. That's 8 or 10 miles a day walking track, and it's hard, and you're not in shape for it. And I said, why don't we do this or that? He goes, no, I want to go up there. I want to hunt in Zim because that's where you guys like to hunt. And I said, okay. I said, I'll do this hunt on one condition. I said, you've got to lose weight and you've got to get in shape, which you just have to walk. You don't have to be an Olympian, but you do have to walk. We can't wait on you when we're tracking. After 2 miles, you can't go anymore. That's the day. So get in shape, blah, blah, blah. So long story short, he shows up, lands at the airstrip. I go out there to pick him up. Got my PH with me. We get there, and he gets off the plane, and he is bigger than he was when he booked the hunt. And, oh, my God. And my PH just looked at me and he said, if we don't get this guy buffalo by day 2, it ain't going to happen. I said, no, man, it's not going to happen. I said, we got to keep him on the truck as long as possible and only drop him on the track, when we think we got a good shot of closing within, a mile or 2 and getting it done. We can't just do our normal, find a good track, at first light and take it all day. We've got to be a little different. So anyway, we get him out there and he's all excited, of course. And I didn't make any comment to him, about, damn, dude, thought you were going to get in shape, because he's the client, he's paying the money, and we just have to alter our plan. We can't do anything about it now. So we get him out, and on day 1, we got him out and we're riding around, checking tracks, but if they're not like right now fresh, we're not going to do anything with them. And about lunchtime, we're driving by, and I see this small herd of buffalo. It's just a cow and a couple of calves, maybe 6, and they're heading over this little rise. And I told my PH, I said, listen, let's get out and let's do a little dry run here and just take him, show him the track. He sees the buffalo, show him the track, and we'll do we'll do a little stalk so he knows his place in line. He knows the routine. So when we're doing it for real, he's not going to be like a deer in headlights. He's going to know. Even though you talk about it, if you don't do it, it's going to be new. So we got him out, and he's all excited. And I said, listen, that's a cow and calves, but we're just going to take the track shortly, and I'm going to show you, how we do it. And it's going to be tracker up front, primary PH and client, me back up in the back, secondary tracker with me. And we only use the second tracker when we have to put him up with the primary if the primary's having trouble. Don't want too many guys up there to spook stuff. So here we go. We take off, and we haven't walked. We found the track, and he understood where he's supposed to be. We walked up the hill, but when we came over the hill, we found out that little group was the last part of a huge herd of 200 or 300 buffalo that were just over the other rise. Looking for a place to lay down, because buffalo will move just at daylight up to lunchtime. They bed down until about 2:33 in the afternoon, then they're up again. So midday, you don't hunt buffalo. And these buffalo were looking for a place to lay down, but we could see out of that 200 or 300, just what we could see. We saw, 4 or 5 really good bulls. So we decided we were going to hunt that herd, and we backed out and we drove up on top of a mountain where we could stand there and glass that herd because they were bedded down in the valley in front of us, probably a mile or so away, but we could see them up there. And we all just, laid out a tarp and took a nap and kept the trackers on point and told them when they get up, get us up. Well, about 2 o'clock, they started getting up. So the trackers got us up. We got ready. We saw where they were going, and we knew the area. And it's between 2 mountains. It's a valley, and it kind of funnels into a narrow before it opens up again. And we wanted to catch them in that funnel, which is a perfect spot, to ambush buffalo. So we got as fast as we could. We tried to get in front of them. But by the time we got to the front or in that little choke point, man, they were there. They were not wasting time. They were there. So I got Jeff there and I got him on the sticks, and he looks at me and now he's afraid. He goes, listen, he goes, what happens if that buffalo charges? I said, well, then you shoot him. He says, well, what happens if the whole herd charges? And I said, well, if the whole herd gets if they get a spook, they're going to come this way. 200 or 300 buffalo are going to charge. It's going to look like one of those old Westerns where the cattle stampede. That's exactly what this is going to be. He goes, well, we're right in the middle of it. I said, yeah, but we're right behind this termite mound because there was a huge 12-foot tall termite mound. I said, we're going to get behind the termite mound and they'll go around us. I said, don't worry, you're safe. So anyway, make another long story short. We're glassing, and waiting, and here they come out of the brush, and the first 2 out are 2 shootable bulls, 2 nice bulls. I couldn't believe it. Usually it's young bulls and cows and calves, and the big bulls, they hide in the middle of the herd, or they'll sometimes satellite on the outside. But here they are, right off the bat, 2 bulls, and they're way out in front of the others. So we got a chance to bag one of these before the herd catches up and busts us, and and takes off in a stampede. So get him on the sticks. The buffalo come up. They're both about equal. Whichever one gives us a shot, we're going to shoot. One turned to the flank as he was feeding, or turned broadside. And, we'd gone over shot placement 1,000,000 times with him. And boom, he shoots, and absolutely nothing happens. The buffalo look up, and they just stand perfectly still. And, as soon as the client shoots, I always instinctively say reload. So as soon as he went boom, I said reload, which he did. And then I said, get another bead and take him again. Boom, he shoots again. Time, they run. And they take off, away from us, which is good. And in the background, we could hear the rest of the herd thundering away, but not in our direction. So we listen, because you'll hear a death bellow most of the time from a fatally struck buffalo. But we listened, we didn't hear anything. Nothing. So I said, well, Jeff, tell me about your shot. What do you think? He goes, well, I was steady, I was calm, and I hit him. I'm sure I hit him good. I said, okay, did you come straight up the leg? Because you shoot buffalo right in the shoulder, forward. In Africa, the vitals are forward on about everything. You don't go way behind the shoulder. You go in the crease or in the shoulder. I said, how was your shot? He said, well, I'm sure I hit him right in the middle. And I went, you mean the middle of the shoulder? He goes, no, man, I hit him right in the middle both times. I said, middle of the buffalo?
Dang.
Oh, no.
He goes, yeah, I didn't want to screw it up. I wanted to make sure I hit him. So I put 2, right in the center. And that's gut shot, 100%. And that is going to be an upset buffalo.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, Jeff. I said, we didn't hear death bellow because they're still moving, and I'm sure you've gut shot it. But we have to come back in the morning. We're 6 hours away from the vehicle. It's 6 o'clock right now in the evening. It's getting dark. We cannot pursue, at nighttime. So we're going to have to come back in the morning. And this is the days before cell phones and what's my little app, Onyx. We had little Garmin GPSs. I marked it. We hiked out, got back to camp about 1 a.m, got back up at 4 a.m, and headed back out, to get to the spot. And we got to the spot, as early as we could get. And we went up there. Trackers, I put both trackers on the track. They started walking it immediately, stomach content. Here's grass, here's stomach content and fluid, and that little watery blood you see from a gut. And I told him, I said, all right, Jeff, this is going to be a long day. Now I'm hoping because we didn't pursue these things last night, which would have been stupid, we didn't spook them at all. They don't know where the shot came from. There was no adrenaline surge, from smelling us. So I'm hoping this buffalo may have gone, 2-3 miles and maybe held up for the night. If not, we're going to walk this thing, we're going to have to walk it down. And he said, okay, I'm with you and all that. Well, we started the track, at just after daylight, and about 10 o'clock, Jeff was pretty much spent and he couldn't keep up. And I'm like, Jeff, we've got to press the buffalo now. We have to press a wounded buffalo. People think you give them time, blah, blah, blah. No, you press a wounded buffalo and you make him do one of two things: stand still and get shot, or charge you and get shot. That's the only way. Otherwise, you're going to be chasing them forever. So you press and press and press. And so I had to take his rifle and give it to the tracker. I took the second tracker off the track, put him with the client, and I said, stay with Jeff. I said, Jeff, you got to do your best to keep up. We couldn't run off and leave him, but at the same time, we had a wounded buffalo. So anyway, we're tracking. Now it's about lunchtime. So we've been on the track 6 hours. Jeff is not only physically finished, now he is a buffalo hunting expert, because he tells me, I know you're not on my buffalo. And I said, yeah, Jeff, we're tracking your buffalo. He said, well, there's not any blood. I said, that's because you gut shot him. He said, how do you know we're on your buffalo? I said, because the tracker knows we're on the buffalo, and the tracker's not out here for exercise, and neither am I, and I can see the track. I said, we're on your buffalo. And fortunately, those two buffaloes stayed together. They didn't rejoin the herd. Then we'd have a huge problem. I said, they stayed apart. So we're on your buffalo. Trust me. So we keep on. And, he's still in my ear. We're not on their buffalo, but at least the trackers are getting some work. And I'm like, okay, Jeff, we're on your buffalo, but just be ready when I tell you. Well, about an hour after that, we started finding fresh drops of blood. Okay. That means this buffalo is very close, because now he is stopping frequently and he's bleeding and it's fresh. We're going to find him right now. And, we're whispering and we're pointing, and we walk a little further and we find a pool of blood. I mean, a pool. That buffalo stood there for at least 30 minutes and bled, because he's about, to the end. I know what he's going to do now. He's going to charge, or he's going to stand there and get shot. But while we're looking at that pool of blood, Jeff, who's behind us, finds a speck of blood on a leaf. That obviously means he's an African tracker now, because he picked it up and got our attention by yelling, here's some blood, at a very high decibel. And when he did that, out comes the buffalo right in, on our flank, on our left flank, charges out at about 20 steps. And fortunately, thank God, we're all right-handed, because we could just drop our rifles down to our left. If he'd come from our right and we had to swing around, it would have been chaos. But he came from our left, and as soon as I drew bead, I hit him, and PH hit him, and we had a couple of doubles. We hit him 4 times. He hit the ground, and he was pretty much finished. And as he was doing the death bellow, I tried to get Jeff up there. I said, Jeff, come up and finish this thing. And Jeff ran up there, but he didn't have his rifle. He left it with the tracker.
Oh.
So we had to go get his rifle and come up, and boom, he dropped the buffalo. We killed the buffalo after about an 8 to 9 mile track, a charging buffalo. We shot him at about, I remember it, in my mind, he came out of that thicket, and I think we dropped him at about 8 steps. And when we got to camp that night, Jeff was smoking a cigar and sitting around the fire telling us all about how to hunt buffalo.
Oh boy!
Maybe he should have written a book. Yeah, we've had a lot of close calls, But in all honesty, in all truthfulness, only about 5% of buffalo cause a problem. So out of 100 buffalo, you may get 5, that give you an issue. So, I've done about 450. I've done 450 buffalo hunts. In a couple of years, we'll go over 500. But out of 450 buffalo hunts, there's probably maybe a dozen to 15 that I can recall that actually gave me pause, and gave me a bit of a fright, and caused us to have to get into action. Usually we find them, they're worn down, they stand their ground, they try to hide in the bush, but we see them and we get a couple of follow-up shots in them and drop them. But boy, those 5% stand out in your mind, and those others sometimes, you just don't remember the ones that go like clockwork.
Tim B said that shows just how good you are. Trained a guy on buffalo in a few hours.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I hear he's guiding up in Tanzania now.
So Ken, what about the client's adrenaline comes in play? What, 80% of the time?
No, it comes into, good Lord, I've had very few clients, if I'm being honest. And now these are great guys. Now I don't want people to think I'm bad mouthing anybody. I mean, this is human nature. This is basic nature with something that, if I was a race car driver, I'm sure I'd be terrified going around the track at 190 miles an hour. It's not my thing. I've not done it. So I'm used to buffalo. I'm used to hunting buffalo. I'm used to being in those dangerous situations. I'm used to handling because I'm acclimated to it, and it becomes instinctive. So these are great guys, and in their field, they're great, but they've never been in these types of situations, which is why they rely on us. They go out there alone. They don't come back. But the client's adrenaline is usually pegged, man. Their adrenaline meter is pegged out. You have to go over so much with them. They will shoot you. We were tracking a wounded lion once, and in a riverine area with thicket over your head, and we thought it was gut shot, but it ended up being a perfect shot. But we thought it was gut shot. We stopped for a second, and I felt a 416 barrel hit me right in the back. The guy behind me just walked right into me with his rifle barrel. And I had to get his attention, and I don't like a guy carrying a rifle with just a safety. If it's a bolt action, I want to see the bolt up, so everyone knows it's safe. I mean, all he has to do is drop the bolt to shoot. That's actually better than a safety. He drops the bolt to shoot, but guys will shoot you. It happened to a young PH with a celebrity hunter.
What's a PH?
Professional hunter.
Okay.
These are licensed guides, professional hunting guides. They're licensed to go through school, licensed to do it. And a dangerous game licensed PH is a lot different than a plains game PH. He goes through additional schooling, and he has to have so many hunts on his resume before he can get licensed to take a client out on dangerous game animals. But yeah, the adrenaline is pegged, which is why they do it. They're not paying me $12,950 to do a video game. They're paying me to take them on a buffalo hunt and get them close, and we shoot them close, and and to make sure they come back alive and not in a soup can. But at the same time, it is exciting, and of course they're excited. So we coach them, we talk to them. I stay, and my PHs, all my professional hunters are dangerous game qualified. I do not have anybody on staff that is not fully dangerous game qualified. I don't need a plains game PH. A fully qualified dangerous game PH can hunt wildebeest and impala all day long. That's a relief for him. But for dangerous game hunting, you want the best. I get the best. I pay the best. They get paid more than they would anywhere else. And the main thing you'll notice with a PH who's experienced and one who's not is his adrenaline level will be low, and his demeanor will be very calm. When he's talking to the client, he's very calm. You get some of these young PHs never done it before. They're jumping up and down excited, shoot, 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 and yelling. That raises everybody's adrenaline level. You have to stay calm, keep the client calm. I usually tell the client myself, when you're ready, take him. You get the sight picture. We go over that. He gets on the sticks, the shooting sticks. Once he gets the sight picture, I say, are you comfortable with the shot? Yes. When you're ready, take him. It's not like shoot now, none of that. And that keeps them calm. And then if it's a wounded buffalo, we have another little infield briefing. I tell him, okay, this is what's happened. This is what you have to be aware of, because so many times once you get on the track and you've walked 2 or 3 hours on the track, people start getting, especially white men. The white man gets lackadaisical. He starts thinking about what's for lunch, what's happening, blah, 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 while the tracker is 100% focused on the track 100% of the time, never loses his focus. It's amazing to see an African tracker in action. They never lose their focus, and we just can't do that. We've got too many things going on in our head. But every now and then you have to stop the track and you have to reorient the client, get his attention again, say, listen, take a break, get a drink of water. Let's refocus on what we're doing, because that thing can jump out at any second. He can be there. And the clients, he should not, on a dangerous game hunt, the client should not be carrying a slinged rifle. He should have it unslung in his hands. He can't use it if it's on his shoulder. I never have a sling on my rifle. It's always in my hands where I need it. And you have to watch the rifle barrel orientation, because they'll be pointing it all over the place. You have to watch the client, as much as you do the buffalo. And it's just because he's not experienced handling quick, dangerous up close shooting. It's kind of like shooting birds with a shotgun, except they're coming at you instead of flying away from you. And you've just got to keep them calm and make sure that they know, that I don't expect them to know how to handle it, but I just, want them to make sure where their rifle's pointed at all times and that it's safe until it doesn't need to be. And we do absolutely everything we can to make sure the client finishes his buffalo, and sometimes they can't. They just can't. Guys will lock up like a flipping master lock sometimes and just can't get it done because they're so afraid they're going to die. And more than one occasion, I've had a client come up to me and he's just like, man, I was sure that thing was going to kill me. And I'm like, that's, first of all, that's negative attitude. We try to project a positive attitude. We're going to kill that buffalo and I'm going to put you on it and you're going to kill it. That's why you're here. And that's why I'm here, to make sure we all get out safe and that you shoot it. But some of them, tell you, they'll lock up on you, man. I had a female buffalo hunter once and she just locked up. And poof, I had to get her attention just to get her to pull the shot off. And she did, and she made perfect shot. But she was on the sticks and just froze and couldn't pull the trigger. And this buffalo wasn't even wounded. But she was just so afraid if she's going to charge and kill us, she wouldn't shoot. And a lot of guys, just a lot of clients get like that. Their adrenaline's up, the fear factor's up. We hunt in very thick, thorny bush. We're not hunting open areas where you see the buffalo hundreds of yards away. When you see that buffalo, he's right in front of you, and you're going to shoot him right in front of you, and he's going to disappear in the thicket as soon as you shoot. So it's a scary situation, and guys aren't prepared for it. And even clients that have hunted, I get, we run about 80% plus repeat business. Same guys come hunt with me, hunt buffalo. Some have shot 4, 6, 8 buffalo with me, and every time they get a little, they still got that adrenaline rush, and which is why they do it. If it was ever like collecting stamps, they'd stop. But yeah, clients tend to get a little excited sometimes, and we all stay calm, and I'm proud to say I'm proud of all my PHs are just so good. They just stay calm, and keep the client as calm as possible. Like it's just another day at the office,
Well, how do we go ahead?
I was just going to say, I've always been an adrenaline junkie, and that's why I'm beat up and crippled up and all. But in my experience, adrenaline can affect you. I mean, real souped up adrenaline, 2 ways. Either you spaz out and you can't function, or it can calm in the right place. It'll calm you. Do you see any of these guys, the repeat hunters, that adrenaline actually works on calming them?
Yes, after they've done it a few times and they've gotten over the fear of being killed, or fear that they could be killed, they don't get excited until after the shot. Some of these guys are like ice. They're like Iceman. They're extremely calm. They know the drill. They know when the sticks go down to get the rifle and sticks. They don't have to be told. They get the rifle in the cradle. We rehearse that a bunch of times on the rifle range anyway, but they've done it enough. They get in the sticks. They're just waiting on the go ahead, because while they're getting in the sticks, we're in the binos and we're doing trophy evaluation. And you got to evaluate the animal. And he might look good, but you have to make 100% sure, because the difference between a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old is the difference between a young buffalo and a trophy. But horn wise, there's not a whole lot of difference. You got to know what you're looking for to tell a soft buffalo from a hard boss. So we're studying the buffalo while he's in the sticks. And I've got some clients, man, we're just like a military operation. And I was in the military for almost 9 years. I can tell you, we get them on the sticks. They're calm, cool, and collected. I give them the go ahead, take him, boom, perfect shot. Buffalo goes down. And now now the adrenaline released.
Yeah.
They're super fired up and excited, But yeah, I get a lot of guys, once they've done it once, they just get like old hat, and they get very, very not experienced, but they get used to how we operate, and then seem to have any problems doing that. And I'll tell you, it's the greatest thing in the world. There's nothing like Cape Buffalo. I mean, there's nothing in North America compared to a Cape Buffalo. Nothing has the skin, the hide, the skeletal structure. Their ribs overlap. They are a tank with a 1-inch thick, super tough hide over it. They are a living, breathing tank, and it takes big artillery to drop one. All of our stuff over here in North America is thin skins, and bullet penetration is never an issue. With a buffalo, you got to penetrate it. You got to get through the ribs and that heavy bone structure, and that's just part of it. And they're extremely dangerous. So, yeah, guys, do it over and over again. And like I said, I've hunted everything in Africa. Lions don't do anything for me. There's nothing easier to kill than a lion. It's a lazy thing. It's thin-skinned, easy to bait, easy to hunt, easy to kill. Now, if you wound one, different story. But they're just easy. I shot one with a bow. It didn't run 20 yards, fell over. They're just a thin-skinned, lazy animal. Leopard is much more intriguing, much more exciting, much more wary, because they're not at the top of the food chain. Those animals at the top of the food chain, they're not afraid of it, so they're lazy. Yep. But buffalo is the number one prey species of lion. So buffalo are always wired for danger, and they're always ready to flip that switch that turns them into, Black Death that they're known for. And they will not give up their life. They won't. They'll hold on to it. And like nothing I've ever seen. It's like an animal becomes possessed. A Cape Buffalo becomes possessed with the will to live. And that's why, I have nothing but respect for these things, ultimate respect for a buffalo, and that will always be my favorite animal, no matter how. And like I said, I've hunted everything. I've done about 40 plus lion hunts, and I've just never been impressed with a lion. Leopard are tough. Leopard are just so on top of their game, man. You have to know how to leopard hunt, and you have to know different techniques. And leopard gets savvy pretty quick, to what's going on. Tough hunt. Probably, I would say the most satisfying hunt is to successfully bag a leopard if you do it traditionally over bait, simply because the leopard's cued in. He knows the game. He's going to walk around. He's going to smell. He's going to check the bait. He's not going to come in. It's artificial. He's used to having to kill an animal, and drag it into a tree, and they're very savvy. You have to know how to bait, whether to use a drag bait or a suspended bait, whether you have to skirt the bait, which you almost always have to skirt it for vultures and things, and to get it off the ground from a hyena. There's a whole lot of things to hunting leopard, but it's satisfying to pull that off. Lion, easy to bait, put out a bait, they walk into it, they don't care. Just because they're not afraid of you, they don't care. So, yeah. But for me, Cape Buffalo, ultimate, top of the line, super tough, needs big bore guns, and I love big bore rifles. And, it's just my thing. I'm 62. I've been doing it for 31 years, and I may go in the bush tomorrow and not come out, but I will have lived my life, and I love it.
How do we get a hold of you? How do we book a hunt?
It's simple, man. I've got a website. It's kenmoodysafaris.com. Or you can always email me at hunt@kenmoody.com. That's HUNT@kenmoody.com. Or you can call me, 931-260 5468. And even in Africa, those texts and calls and everything comes straight through. I've got travel plan on my phone, works just like I'm here. You can reach me. I will tell you our hunting seasons normally go April through September. Those are the best months to hunt. It's wintertime in Africa, so the temperatures are bearable. And we generally start in April. We didn't this year, fortunately, because we had monsoon weather over there that's still going on. We're starting here in a couple of weeks, starting in May, and we finish up right at the end of September, and I think into October, and then we're done for the year. But yeah, it's easy. Get a hold of me. We'll go over dates. We'll go over what you want to do, how you want to do it, that sort of thing. I'll give you all the options available and give you a price on what it is you want to do and that sort of thing. And then we get you booked, and all you have to do then is make sure you have a passport.
Beautiful. Well, there you have it.
Easy stuff, man. Easy stuff. But I have to tell you, you'll love it. And people get addicted to it. They come to Africa, and as soon as the hunt's over, they're planning their second safari.
Nice. Well, we definitely appreciate the stories. Appreciate you coming on and taking a little bit of time. And
now I talked a lot.
Giving us a reason to spend money.
If you say Cape Buffalo, brother, you're flipping my switch. I can talk about Cape Buffalo. I'll tell you one last real funny story, and then I'm done. This is quick. I do a lot of trade shows every year. I go all over the country doing hunting trade shows, and I do seminars at these trade shows on hunting Africa. So one day I was doing a show in Milwaukee, and I'm doing a seminar, and I have these two guys coming over, and they want to come hunt buffalo with me. They came to the booth and talked, and I said, well, I'm getting ready to do a seminar. Come on over, and we'll talk about it. So we go over there, and I'm doing the seminar, and I'm talking about 30 minutes, 45 minutes into it. And I've got a pretty good crowd there. I'd say there's 15, 20 people there, and these two guys are there. And we got into buffalo, and I'm talking buffalo. And then I start seeing, man, people are coming in and sitting down, listening to my seminar, and more people are filling in, and more people are coming in. They're stopping out in the aisleways, listening. They're coming in, and before I know it, man, the whole place is full. Every seat's taken, and I'm rolling right along. And I'm like, dang, I must be like an orator supreme. I am really laying it on. These guys are loving it. I'm doing such a great job, and I'm talking, and I just happen to glance behind me, and these two guys are sitting on the stage behind me. Well, they're the next seminar whose time I had gone over 15 minutes. I was still talking buffalo, and all those people were coming in to hear about cooking.
As long as you feel important, that's all that matters.
I did book those two guys on buffalo hunt, so it was worth it. But I thought I was rolling, but it was just I was taking their time, and I apologized and packed up my little microphone and out.
We definitely appreciate you taking the time to come on.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. I do. I enjoy talking about hunting in Africa. I'm the only American that actually owns a safari company in Africa that still lives in America. Some guys have immigrated over there, and live there and that. But I still maintain my American citizenship and go back and forth. And I love America, and I only take American and Canadian clients. I usually stay away from Europeans. So, yeah, we'd love to have you guys want to come over. Just give me a shout, and we'll talk it. Happy to do so.
We'll definitely promote you.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate being on.
No problem.
All right, we'll see you.
I feel like you could sit and he could tell you stories, 31 years of stories all day long, and you could just sit there. I don't think we said a word.
I used to watch a guy, Jeff ran safaris, and he was an American that went over, and he quit. His big deal was elephant and the Okavango Delta, and he got him to charge. And you talk about being souped up, when that elephant's head is down, and you got to hit him perfect right there, and he's 30 paces away, and an elephant's 14 feet tall. A pace ain't nothing.
And it's like that with that Mark Sullivan or whatever he does, that he instigates the buffalo to charge. Wild.
Yeah, it makes you want to go hunt buffalo, that's for sure.
I'd love to go hunt a buffalo, man. But
That'd be
I don't have
fun.
that story. I got to get a bigger rifle before I do, though.
I tell you what, though, when Benny started talking about adrenaline, I almost chimed in and said, Benny, the adrenaline difference between wild game and being an outlaw and causing problems with the authorities is a whole different world. I held it in, Benny. I had to wait till he left.
Man, I'll tell you what, I have done stuff, and absolutely that's why I am crippled up, because there was nothing. My brother and I specifically, there was nothing out of reach when we wanted to have fun.
Yep.
And I know what he's talking about, because when you get used to something, the adrenaline's still there, but you have this calm about you. It's like the eye of the tornado. And then just as soon as it's done, you almost collapse, and you're just like this. And then in 10 minutes, you could fall dead asleep.
Yep. Well, it's like the first time you catch a lion and you want to crawl up there and pull the tiger's tail. The first time it's like, holy hell. The second time, third time, a little different, and then after that it's just another day. But it's still, anytime a lion jumps out of a tree, it's a good rush, and the dogs take off, and it's it hits you, and then you calm down and go from there.
And then you go to the second tree when it trees again, and you get all excited again.
Oh yeah, exactly.
But the only way that you can really increase the adrenaline level is to get up in the tree and get a 3-foot long stick and force the lion out of the tree without falling down amongst those adrenaline-filled dogs yourself.
Oh yeah.
Of course, none of us would ever do that.
No.
I heard about it one time.
Yep.
Me too.
Read that in a book.
Man, I don't even want to talk about California no more. But
no, it's just gonna ruin it. But I know you're good at ruining shit.
Yes, that's why I should have told them to come on at 9 o'clock.
Just saying.
But it's late over there. You know what I mean? I'm like, when you get someone on telling those stories, it's like, just sit back, let them just talk, let them tell a story.
Oh yeah.
Those are stories that you don't get over here. You don't. A lion charges you, runs at you, you're going to probably live. You got people around dogs like buffalo. I don't care if you had 40 dogs around you and 10 people, you better hope they're good shots. Like you said, those guys turned and shot. If they didn't turn and shoot, he would have got that guy.
Oh yeah.
Cody's hunting in New Mexico for the next, I don't know how, several days.
Yeah.
And he's hunting where I have told you guys those lions are vicious.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to Cody yesterday, and I only pray that they catch a lion and Cody can tell us the story about that lion wanting to eat everybody in sight. Because when they quit looking at the dog and they look at you, and their eyes change colors to a green, and their tail starts ringing, if you don't have any adrenaline, you'll have shit in your pants.
Yep.
So I was looking at Ken's page, and they do, them leopard hunts and stuff.
Yeah.
Their leopard hunts are all over bait. And I've talked to a few guys that have done the leopard hunts in Africa with dogs. And they say kind of similar to what Benny was saying, that when you walk into that leopard tree after them dogs have treed it, you have to be quiet and careful, and you shoot that leopard as soon as you see it. Because once the leopard sees you, his focus shifts, and he does not give a shit about the dogs. He gives 2 shits about nothing. He sees you, and he will come out of that tree and come after you.
He's taking you with him.
Yeah. And so that's a whole different level. You walk into, a lion tree, 99.9% of the time, he does not want anything to do with you. He, whether it's a female or a tom, they see you, they don't want to be there. They're going to jump, they're going to bail. But like Benny's saying, some of them in, certain areas in that, they get a little, they're devilish, they're angry. They don't like people. And that's the way them leopards are over there. And so it's interesting to hear videos and see stories of that. So I definitely like to hear what Cody has to say, once he gets through that country, Benny.
You guys get if you can find the video, Roy Sparks is a South African, and he's still, I don't know what he's doing now. I don't think he's hunting as much like he was, but years ago I saw a video. Roy Sparks hunted everything with hounds. He got his hounds from Arizona and New Mexico. And Roy and I have gotten to be friends through social media, and we've talked on the phone several times. But the video that I saw that introduced me to Roy was he was the PH, and they had a leopard in a hole in a rock pile, and Roy went in there with a little damn pop gun. You know the cap guns that we used to have as kids with the roll of caps? You guys aren't that old. But anyway, it sounded like that when he went in there and shot that leopard. He could just barely see that leopard in there, and he shot that leopard. And that leopard came out and took Roy to the ground, and they were rolling around, and his people couldn't help him. Because how do you shoot a leopard when you're rolling and all tangled up and there's just this wad? And finally, when everything slowed down, one of those guys ran up there with a double shooting slugs and knocked that leopard off of Roy, put the gun right up on the leopard's shoulder and let him have both barrels. Yep. And Roy was all bit up and scratched up. The leopard had cut on him with his back claws and his guts, and it gets real.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's different when you're dealing with an apex predator versus a man eater.
Yeah.
A little bit different world there.
Absolutely.
All right.
Chris just come back from the gym. He killed a big one down there. He said it's a good hunt.
Chris is sighing like he wants to ruin our fun.
I don't want to ruin it.
I want to talk about California.
We shouldn't have started the California thing. We should have just kept it canned, huh?
No, it's good though. I mean, to see what's going on over there and what happened, and you know what? It wasn't the outcome that everyone wanted, but in the end, it got tabled for future.
Was step.
Yeah,
it was a step. We had Democrats voting, yay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was a good step, and it was a good
and
let us know what's going on.
And it didn't get shut down completely. It got tabled for later, which honestly
reconsideration.
Reconsideration, but also will make it a 2-year bill now, right? Versus what it could have been. So
Yep. Well, let's get to the biologist then. Rather tell stories. So
ruin it.
They introduced the bill. She come in, say everything. These are all the pro stuff. This is the biologist. Now, this is the guy that does this for a living. Not the antis. The antis rebuttal will be after this, and it's the same crap. But here's the biologist.
Thanks. Good morning, Madam Chair. Kyle Garrett, large carnivore biologist. Spent about 1.5 years working for the California Fish and Wildlife Department stationed in Lake Tahoe. Helped out on the Downeyville situation as well. I'm here because it seems like there's a lot of confusion about this bill and what it's all about. So I'd like to clear that up. I will move pretty fast, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Can you not hear me?
You have to talk really close.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay.
Much better. If you could just speak just a little closer.
Okay.
Thank you.
No. Okay, yeah. So allowing dogs for hazing is no different than people with paintball guns and air horns chasing them on foot, which is a tactic currently used by CDFW and other bear advocacy groups. Causes no more stress than that does, and that is the goal at the same time. We want these bears to have a negative experience with humans. That is the whole point. I think people will look at that and think it's rude to the bear or rude to the dogs. When we're trying to minimize conflict and keep them out of trouble and keep them out of negative circumstances that are worse for the bear and humans, it's going to take a little bit of tough love, and that's what it takes. That's what this bill would do. In the analysis of this bill, there's an assumption that the conflict is going down due to the WI report found on CDFW's website or in their bear management plan as well. And I would say 1 year of lower calls does not dictate any type of trend in a statistical outlook over the last 10 years. And in fact, we know a lot of people don't report these things. I think if you were sitting at your house having a nice night and a bear started to break into your house, you're probably not going to Google who to call, what to call, where to call, and where do I fill out a Google form to announce and let the CDFW know that there's a bear breaking in. You're probably going to call 911. And while we do work really hard to try and work with local law enforcement, at this volume of calls, there's some oversight there, and it's just not possible. I wanted to point out that the dip in the WI reporting seems to take place in 2023, which is one of the years I was actively working in Tahoe with 2 other people. And between the 3 of us, we alone handled 600 calls in the Tahoe Basin. And on the report, that is barely showing. I'd also like to show that the report only shows 3 different categories, where in the WIR system, there's, I believe, 6 different categories that can be marked as far as when people do report these animals. AB 1030 does not open a hunting season and simply restores authority Fish and Game Commission to determine bear hunting regulations, just like they do for all other game species and like every other state does manage that way as well. The commission would also determine when and where
I'll need
running
you to wrap
hounds.
up because we have 2 minutes per witness. You're already in 3 minutes.
Oh man,
so,
I'm chatting, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So I think the last thing I would like to point out is in the report, there's a discussion of average hound chase happening from 3 to 12 hours. That was cited from 1985. That's very outdated, and I would question how true that is. I have not seen the exact report it came from. With GPS collars, that's not going to happen. No houndsman would put their dogs through that, and nobody wants a dog or a bear to go through 12 hours of pursuit either.
Biologist. Like, this is a biologist, right? So you have a representative telling you everything that the people's going on. You have a sheriff saying, hey, this is out of control. And now you have the biologist that's saying, listen, all this stuff you're hearing isn't very true. So let me jump to the antis. I got a couple of those. And then the members will start asking these questions, and that's where it gets good. But you'll love these. These antis are the best. It's I think they make a speech and they pass it around the whole United States. So here it is.
Oh. Thank you, Madam Chair. Is my mic on? Yes. Okay, Madam Chair and members, Wendy Kiefover. I'm with Humane World for Animals. We strongly oppose AB 1038 because it allows packs of GPS radio collars to run amok on California's wildlands, ostensibly to haze bears away from human-dominated landscapes. We know this does not make people safer. Neither does hunting bears make people safer. According to a Western biologist I spoke with, hounding doesn't deter them. Moving food attractants does. The chase is stressful to bears. Hounds have a problem identifying boundaries, so they will infringe on people's private properties. If they're in neighborhoods, they could be hit by vehicles. They attack pets. The hounds attack pets, people, and domestic livestock. There's many examples of that. If houndsmen are chasing bears in the woods, they're chasing the wrong bears. The science is clear. The root cause of bear conflicts comes from food attractants, such as unsecured garbage and bird feeders, and in semi-rural areas, chicken coops and beehives not behind electric fencing. While hounding will cause bears to feel fear and stress, it will not produce the results that the author seeks. This bill is entirely about allowing an interest group to engage in hounding purely for recreation. This body banned bear hounding in 2012 because 83% of California voters polled opposed it and wanted their wildlife treated with respect. Hounding causes injuries and deaths to bear cubs, mountain lion kittens, deer fawns, ground nesting birds. It's a mayhem out there. Bears bayed on the ground will fight hounds, resulting in maiming or death to either species and particularly to defenseless cubs. Underperforming hounds are often abandoned or dumped into animal shelters. Instead, education and enforcing bear feeding ordinances do prevent conflicts. In Durango, Colorado, study researchers found in one neighborhood where we were given automatically locking trash can lids, compliance and conflicts decreased by 93%. Conflicts between bears and humans are increasing in California, but that's because of a 20-year mega drought not seen since 800 AD and extreme wildfires. Living through this is hard enough for California's bears and the rest of our native wildlife. We do not need the additional stresses associated with dangerous and recreational bear hounding. We urge you to vote no on AB 1038. Thank you.
There's so much water in California. Even if they went through a drought in the mountains, there's so much water up there. I mean, it's crazy.
I love how the only scientist mentioned is the anonymous biologist that she talked to.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
My buddy works for Department of Water for California, and all last year he had to make reservoirs because they were flooding.
Mm-hmm.
She's got to have. We hear about junk in the trunk. Her trunk has got to be so huge for all that shit she's pulling out of there. Because she's got stuff made up that she's stored in there for eons. She's a hoarder.
No, that's a fact, and it's the stuff that they keep bringing out. I mean, you'll hear this next guy say that the science shows 3 to 12-hour chases, and like the biologist said, this is from 1985, and this is what they do. They find anything they can on the internet, no matter where it's from, and they quote it. So here's the guy sitting next to her. Now, I'm going to remind you of a video I posted about the Bear League doing what? Saying dance with bears. Just remember that, guys. Dance with bears. This is this guy right here.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members. Dave Fleischman for the Bear League, a Tahoe-based NGO dedicated to helping people live in harmony with bears through bear education, aversion, and response. We strongly oppose AB 1038. It's an unnecessary solution to a misrepresented problem. California's black bear population has not doubled. In the newly finalized Black Bear Conservation and Management Plan, the Department of Fish and Wildlife reports that there's no evidence of any statistically credible population declines or increases over the last decade. Current law already allows for hazing with dogs under a CDFW depredation permit. If human-bear conflicts were increasing, it would logically follow that requests for depredation permits would have increased in a bear-rich area like Lake Tahoe, where I live. But the number of requests for depredation permits in the Tahoe region has declined by more than 50% since bear hounding was banned. Proponents shamelessly try to capitalize on California's first human death allegedly attributed to a black bear. Patrice Miller tragically died in 2023 north of Lake Tahoe, with the local sheriff noting at the time that she placed cat food, a known bear attractant, on her porch for dozens of cats. A study CDFW relies on in its recent black bear conservation report states, quote, management of human bear conflicts can only come from large-scale security of the anthropogenic attractants that cause human bear conflict rather than managing individual bears. South Tahoe Refuse and Alpine County have distributed state-subsidized bear-proof garbage cans to reduce access to human food sources. For nearly 30 years, Bear League has run a 24/7 hotline to dispatch response teams to help assist and educate the public about bear contacts. Bear League regularly loans out electric mats to deter bears from trying to access human food sources. These are time-proven management strategies that keep people and bears safe. AB 1038 is a bear hunting bill barely disguised as a public safety tool, one that is not needed and one that is not supported by science. And I understand I may have a few extra seconds, but I'll say that I'm one of the Bear League's first responders. I go out, I haze the bears. I agree with Mr. Garrett that sometimes they need tough love. But CDFW already has the tools that it needs under the existing law. And it doesn't speak too well for the budget to be cutting nearly 300 CDFW positions in a time where allegedly the number of bears contacts is increasing. So therefore, we respectfully request your no vote on AB 1038.
This is what he's saying. That old lady, it's her fault she got killed by a bear.
Yep.
It wasn't the bear's fault. She was putting cat food on her porch for the cat. Let me tell you a story my cousin just told me. His daughter went home in Tahoe, left the garage door open, went in the house. They just got back from a trip, heard noises, thought it was the bear getting in the guy's trash next door again that they hauled away. The bear dumped over their chest freezer and ate every bit of meat out of that chest freezer that quick. So if they would have walked out and that bear killed them, it's their fault because they left their garage door open. These guys have no respect. The Bear League. This is the guy saying that it hurts your dogs. Don't haze. It's not right. This is the same people that said, let your dogs dance with the bears.
Well, it's only a problem if the dog's got long ears, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's all it is. It's if you let them do it. So a lot of these are little short clips now. So this is the committee talking about decrease asking. They're starting to ask these questions. Let me see. Let me look. Make sure I'm in order here. Committee stress question. Might be the right one.
Reading through the analysis, it showed that the number of reports have actually decreased since 2022. Why is that?
If I could have Kyle, our expert on that.
There's a number of reasons it could be. First and foremost, there's a lot of research out there that when management agencies come out with new policies, they're always going to make some group mad. In a state of California with 40 million people, there's no document you can put out that people won't react to. And so in 2022, the Department of California Fish and Wildlife, they put out a new approach on how they are handling bears with conflict, and you had a large group of people who didn't agree with their new approach on both sides, whether it was too strict or not strict enough. And so you lose a lot of community trust when things are that out in the open for people to nitpick or go for or go against. So there's a number of reasons for that. Again, I would say 1 year of lower reports does not dictate any type of trend.
Where's your dad? I'm fine.
Follow me. So I was just kind of asking, hey, no one reported some stuff. You know what I mean? But in the end, there was just reasons for it. So let's jump over to, let me see what this one is.
It's been mentioned that the chasing by these hounds causes the bears stress. Would you say that's any more or less than what's typically used right now to chase the bears away?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. I would ask the opposition the same question. The methods you use, does that cause any more or less stress than the use of hounds?
Well, I can say that it causes much more stress for the dogs because they don't release the pursuit. Whereas if we move a bear out of the area, it's out of the area and we're done with it. Whereas a dog can chase a bear, a pack of dogs can chase a bear for 3 to 12 hours is what the science shows. And that bear can be exhausted, dehydrated, and can just be in tremendous stress. Contrary to the information sheet put out by the assembly member regarding the bears sitting calmly in the trees after this happens, that is not what happens. The bear is sitting up in a tree, scared to death. And if it had cubs and it was separated from its cubs, now it's under even greater stress. There's no way to regulate the dogs beyond their training. And there's videos all over YouTube showing rife dogs just running amok, not paying any attention to their handlers in this type of situation. So that is why CDFW and the current Fish and Game Code limits the number of dogs in a depredation permit for hazing to 3 dogs. It reduces the amount of stress on the bears, and allowing packs of dogs larger than that is going to increase dramatically the stress.
Oh, it gets better. Like these guys they're just kind of talking what they feel like they're talking about. You know what I mean? There's no science to it. This is just kind of what they're talking about. So this is the next lady. This is the one sitting next to him. She has to put in her 2 cents. It's worth every bit of it.
Yeah. So I would say that it is.
It's been mentioned that the chasing by these hounds causes the bears stress. Would you say that's any more or less than what?
Maybe I don't have it on here.
3-year-old Greg? No.
There was a girl. That lady talked. I'm trying to find out.
Well, every time she opens her mouth,
it's dumb, and maybe I didn't load it. But this is the other.
It's been mentioned that the chasing by these hounds reading.
So I would say that it is adding. It's going to stress the bear out. We want that. We want that natural chase. That's a natural predator mentality that we want to keep them in the wild. we typically used dogs for hunting, so the chase wasn't released. It would be released now. Bears are smart animals. They will learn from this, and it will help them stay away from humans. We want them to think about a barking dog as something they don't want to go near. That's what we're looking for. I would say the 3 to 12 hours is very, very extreme. These hounds are very well trained. They are loved by their families. I know many houndsmen personally that they are loved probably more than their children at sometimes. They're very well taken care of and very smart. When that data was found, it was we did not have the technology that we have now. So a lot of the data that has been informing people from opposition is outdated and almost 15 years old. We've come a long way in technology, and the use of GPS and tracking they're not separated as long now. And all the opposition that sat down with me had never been on a bear hunt or seen hounds in action, which is very concerning to me. Nor do they live in my district and have to deal with bears. Most of them are fighting this fight from the city.
I love how she calls them out.
Yeah.
She
Perfect.
calls them out on it. Mm-hmm.
Fighting it from the city.
Mm-hmm. So then, one of the guys asked, one of the members asked him, "You got any good stories? You got anything to reference it?" And this is where it gets kind of good too.
One, to your point, we had discussed yesterday, there's horrible things happening. Can you share, maybe the sheriffs can share as well, just one story of what's happened because this has gone kind of unmet with this particular use of in my opinion, humane way to handle the situation.
And if you don't mind, I would like to ask a follow-up. One example of predators or particular with bears?
Particularly with bears, since that's what we're talking about in this situation.
Sure. And over the last year and a half in Western Sierra County, we have regularly ran into bears that have been habituated within the community and just are not afraid. Yes, when they are hazed, they will run off, but within 45 minutes, they're right back into the same neighborhoods. So, when I was younger, growing up in that community, it was very common to see houndsmen during the bear season in Western Sierra County. And, I can't definitively give you scientific data that the reason that we didn't have the bear problems that we had back when hounds hunting was legal, that we're now seeing in my community. But I can tell you that it was commonplace to see the houndsmen in and amongst the communities dealing with the habituated bears and getting them out of our community.
It's facts after facts, right?
Well, did you see the old lady from the opposition as he's talking saying, yes, they haze these bears, 45 minutes they'll be back. She sits there and nods her head right along like, no shit. Yeah. It happens.
And like I said in the beginning, it's not what they're doing, it's because there's 60 to 80,000. Even if there was 40,000 bears in there. Tahoe is what is Jared on you? Tahoe is gosh dang it. Tahoe is the most capita bear, largest population of bear in the world. Black bear.
That's what they say.
Tahoe, not California. Tahoe, it's all the most concentrated population. And the problem is we have too many bears just hazing and just scaring them off. You can scare off 10 bears, or you can scare off 80,000 bears. They're going to come back. And next year there's going to be 90,000 bears. You tell me out of 80,000 bears, let's just lowball 60. How many of those are female? 40, 50%, 30%, even 30%, and only 50% of those have them. It's 15,000 bears. There goes Jared. This is why I mute Jared right here.
Oh, I muted him. I'm sick of that Nevada wind.
Damn plane.
Freaking Nevada wind.
Is that what it is? It's not the wind. I thought it was a plane going by.
They're fighter jets. Come on, Top Gun's right here.
I know. Okay, let's go to the story number 2 here. No wait, yeah, here it is.
Thank you.
Can I add a story? Is that okay if I add a story? Okay. Lake Tahoe Basin biologist, I get a phone call in February. For those of you that don't know, bears are typically hibernating in February, especially female bears with yearling cubs in tow, depending on mom. And it was a call from a woman who was sitting in her car with 2 4-year-old children strapped into their car seats when the female bear broke into the car trying to get food. Not typical behavior. Nothing that other states even have to deal with is bears not hibernating because they're not being managed and they're becoming so habituated. It's totally changed their behavior from what how natural bears behave.
Literally, it's the same distance. It's an extra.
Keyword habituated, right? These bears don't care. They're going to come in your house when you're sitting on your couch and get in your fridge.
Oh, yeah.
They'll eat the popcorn out of your lap. You know, why is that? Is it because they're habituated, or is it because there's so many bears out there that they can't go back into the forest? You know, I mean, how much food is in the forest for 80,000 bears? It's ridiculous. Okay, here's story 3.
And I would just add, in hunting, this bill we're not hunting bears. They are allowed to hunt bears without hounds right now. And there are many mistakes made from hunters. They're following the law. They're doing everything right. I spoke to a gentleman this morning that's in here. If they are able to tree that bear, then they can see if it's a sow and if it's lactating and if it has cubs, and then they're going to let that bear go and find another one. That's not an option right now. So there are hunters that are putting sows down on accident because they're seeing a bear 100 yards away. This is a humane approach. We just want that balance back. The predators are out of control in my district. I know I show a lot of you guys pictures all the time. We're out of whack, and we need that ecological balance.
Basically saying, hey, this is what we're doing already. We've tried all that. It don't matter. If it steps on the electric mat and it gets shocked, it goes to the back door. If it steps on that electric mat and gets shocked, it goes to the window. Them bears will get in wherever they want to get in.
Oh, as long as they can smell something, they don't give a shit.
Yeah. And that Bear League guy keeps talking about electric fencing. You want every single person to put electric fences around their house and run those all the time? The hell out of here. Prisoner in your own home.
This is why we mute Jared.
Yeah.
I know. Here we go. So here's commission comments.
I just want to reiterate that this bill does not authorize hunting. It authorizes CDFW. If in the future they need that option, they can bring that back because they're the bear experts. They're our wildlife management for the state, and they should be making those calls, not legislators. I don't consider myself a bear expert. I would hope none of us in the assembly do. I would also say that we have already done those things. I mean, I would use Tahoe as an example, and they have the highest bear population in the nation, so or in the world. So we have done those. We're past those efforts at this point, and we need to step it up.
In the world.
Yeah.
This representative knows what's going on in the district. I don't even think. Well, she has livestock and stuff. She had a cow killed or something by a bear. Okay, we got a couple more. These are the member comments now.
I want to also recognize there is a bear problem. There's a growing bear problem as you have more interaction and more people living in areas where there's a wildland-urban interface, et cetera. And I don't want to minimize the sheriff's frustration with what is going on. My concern is this bill is so primarily focused on and includes the hunting of bears with dogs instead of being focused on what are all the things that we need to do to make the community safer. And so it confuses the issue. So people can raise legitimately the question, is this mostly to try to make it easier to hunt bears with dogs? Or is this mostly a focus on trying to do all the things that have to be done? If it was focused on doing all the things we have to be done, there'd be a lot more in the bill about all of those kinds of things. But so I won't be supporting this bill because of that provision in here about the hunting aspect, using the dogs for the hunting. thing, as I think that decreases sort of the confidence that's the genuine focus. And at the same time, I want to recognize that is a serious problem out there, and I hope that that can get addressed with all kinds of appropriate techniques. Thank you.
What appropriate technique?
Well, he keeps saying, I think we need to try some more. We need to try a little bit more. We're not really trying hard enough.
Need to try to tree a whole bunch of them and kill the piss hell out of them things. They got too many.
They've been trying since 2014. Like, you've had literally 10 years, 11 years to control this. And what is the population? Has it doubled? I believe it's doubled. And you have 80,000 bears. And how many do you think you're going to have next year? I thought I had.
I think it's tripled. And
I bet you it has. I thought I had her answer. I might have already played it. Here's comment number 2.
Next up, I have Assemblymember Rogers.
No, thank you so much. And I want to appreciate you bringing forward a problem that I know impacts both of our districts. I'm not convinced that this is the solution to it, so I won't be supporting today. But I did want to hone in on something that you did bring up that is a very real issue, and that's farmers losing their livestock as a result of animal behavior, whether it's mountain lions or bears. And there's a fund that is supposed to compensate farmers for that is currently empty, and would love to work with you on getting money put back into that fund in this year's budget if you're up for it, because that is the flip side of how we manage our wildlife, is the impact that it has on farmers as well. And that's the price that we have agreed to pay as a state to try to make it so that we find that balance. And currently we don't have it. So we'd love to work with you on that.
We have a request in for $50 million this year and next, but it's only for wolf depredation. So bears aren't in that.
Why did he keep muting? I don't mute you. Just keep staying on mute. Because you're always loud. It just stays on mute.
This was Rowdy's dogs. But how much for wolf depredations? Did she say 50 or 5?
They put in a $50 million wolf for wolf. It's not for bear.
That's ridiculous.
That is wild.
But they have 80,000 bears.
Cheaper.
No, it makes you kind of sick. Well, here's 3. That's 2 not supporting it, mainly because of hunting. And then the second one said, "Oh, well, we got money for these guys. Let's just pay for it." You know where that money comes from, right? You know where grants come from.
You guys reckon there's any amount of anything that would reach those people? Like, they were going to say no when they got here today. You know what I mean?
Well, the one guy said hunting. So either way, we still have the numbers. I think I've already posted them again. I might not have posted it yet. Elizabeth posted it. That said who voted, their numbers, who didn't vote, and who voted no, who voted yes, who didn't vote. Now, to me, if you didn't vote, you're kind of a coward chicken shit. And if you were in my district, I would not vote for you next year if you couldn't vote on something. Either yay or nay.
How many votes did it take to pass? Because we got more for
We needed 7. We needed 1 more. No, we had 6 for it.
Where do I dump this at?
I'll repost that. So here's the member comment 3.
Assemblymember Baines.
Yes, I just had a question about the dogs pursuing the bears.
Right, yeah.
I'm worried if they get attacked by the bear, what happens?
So they're taught not to engage physically with the bear. It absolutely could happen, but they are trained to. That bear's instinct is to go in a tree. So they tree the bear, they wait for their handler to come, and then they're released. How long that is in between can vary. Typically, it's not 12 hours like was expressed. I would say it's under 3, maybe closer to an hour, hour and a half, if that. So because now we have side-by-sides and technology that leads you right there. You're not hiking around the woods. They are very, very well trained. They're also very single-minded. So they can see deer and they still stay on that trail. They can see other animals, other species. They are trained to focus on that bear or whatever animal they're treeing. that just like hunting waterfowl and using a dog for that, you wouldn't bring a dog that doesn't do its job to the woods to pursue. Oh yeah, no, the dogs are very safe. These, like I said earlier, these dogs are very, very, they're part of their families. They're very well loved and they don't want them hurt either. And I don't think I feel like I can speak for houndsmen that they do not want to put their dogs in harm's way.
House still in Arizona, but
We hear you now, Jared. I like the lady. Like, she kind of calls it out how it is. As you can tell, Dustin did his Irish goodbye.
yeah.
So,
Well, you know, he's only good. He's only good for a little bit. He gets sick and tired of politics talk.
yeah, we all do.
You only
I got
get
three-
you only get about a half hour of that with Dustin. And he's like, you know what, I'm out.
Yep.
And I don't
So
blame him.
so now they've already talked to the good guys. I mean, our side. So now they ask the opposition. So there's two. They ask them both, and then I'll play the response to that from the other gal. These are short ones.
Madam Chair, may I respond as well?
Yes, please.
Quickly.
Okay, thank you. It doesn't matter what size the bear population is. You can have a small population and have a lot of conflicts. You can have a large population and have virtually zero conflicts. It's all about how trash and livestock and feed are managed. It's all about human behavior. And we know that hounds and bears are injured or killed and cubs are killed. It is cruelty. If a bear gets bayed on the ground, if it's a mother, she's going to rip into those dogs. They'll have punctured lungs. They can be killed. There's a lot of cruelty involved with this. This is a solution that doesn't work. What we need to do is contain human food attractants and livestock attractants. That's what works.
You know where they have a large population of bears and don't have bear conflict? In Appalachia, where they kill the piss out of them and run them with dogs year round.
Absolutely.
You don't have bears breaking in grandma's house in West Virginia. It don't take place. It's insane.
I think I played these backwards, but here's the other question.
I have Assemblymember Hart.
Yeah, there's been a lot of things said. We've been talking for quite some time about different aspects of this problem. I'd really like to hear from the opposition. You really haven't had an opportunity to respond to many of the things that have been said. There's a lot of science involved in here, and I appreciate the urgency of the situation in the communities that are experiencing this. Not the first communities to engage, have conflicts with bears and humans, but there's a lot of science I think that would be useful for the committee to hear about. So if you wouldn't mind sharing some of that.
Assembly member, is there a specific aspect of the science that you're interested in? Because there are a number of studies that have been cited in CDFW's recent black bear management report. I'm prepared to address some of them, but not all of them, because there's a significant number of them in there. But I can tell you a couple things. That population estimates that are based on camera trap data can be erroneous in that a bear can be identified at two separate camera traps, miles and miles apart, and be identified as two different bears. Give you a quick example. Last night in my backyard, a bear with an ear tag 1988 walked through my camera run, and that bear was seen in Homewood 25 miles away less than 3 weeks ago. So that bear could be counted as two separate bears on a population study. So what we're doing now in the field is we're trying to use photographs, and at least in Alaska, they're now starting to use AI to identify individual members of a bear population through facial recognition software. And those are tools that CDFW has not had access to until recently, and that would provide better science as to the numbers. When you look at the draft bear report versus the final report, there's an interesting diminution of the population, say in the north area where I'm from, of about 35% in the bears, whereas in San Luis Obispo, there's an increase of 70%. And there's no discussion of how those numbers change so radically in a one-year period. So I think CDFW has a baseline that they can work from, but they need additional information that they're working on. And I favor that type of scientific approach to determining the population of the bears so that it can inform management decisions. So if the bear population is truly exploding, which we do not believe it is, then you have management tools available to you. Whereas if the population data is showing that the bears are actually half the numbers that CDFW has estimated, then the other management tools that are placed into effect may not be as appropriate under the circumstances.
There's only 40,000 bears, guys. That's what it is. It's like listening to an electrician try to tell you how to put in some copper pipe.
Yeah. I love that they ask about science and they don't ask the only scientist on the panel.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well,
they have
science.
they have the large carnivore biologist for the area sitting right there, and they ask these yahoos about science and the only
wanted to
study
hear
they
from the opposition. They wanted to give them a chance. So here's the last 30 seconds. Here's the rebuttal to it.
Assemblymember Hedwig, please.
I would just like to reiterate that California Department of Fish and Wildlife is our agency that does our wildlife management for the state, and I think it's irresponsible and inappropriate to characterize that their science is not correct. These are the numbers coming from them, from the Bear Plan. All of the information that my team has presented to you guys is from that, and I feel they're the experts in this field.
She always stands up for him, you know. So I had a lot of comments here. We can't hear you, Jared, because we mute them. Are the dogs safe? I carry more first aid stuff for my dogs. I don't even carry first aid for me. I carry for my dogs. You know. So
Yeah, they want to talk about dogs getting chewed up. I've had the same stapler unopened for years. You know, I just don't run those kind of dogs. You know, I got one that's a little bit too gritty, but my dogs are at 6 foot. I'd rather lose a piece of game than get a chewed up dog. You know what I mean? I'm just a little softer like that, but I don't know.
there's a comment for you, Jared. Mute that goofy hat wearing Jared.
Because I had to bring it out. Me and Rowdy are getting the war ponies out.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, see if we can't lose any to a Mustang herd.
Well, there you have it, guys. I mean, they lost by 1 vote. Let me look. I can tell you exactly who voted what. So, wait, here we go. See more. No votes. Diane Pepin, who's the chairperson, the person you have to really get a hold of. She's the one that controls everything. She voted no. Steve Bennett voted no. Tasha Borner voted no. And Chris Rogers voted no. That did not vote and should be kicked out of all that, any kind of politics, is Jessica Colazo, Greg Hart, and Celeste Rodriguez.
What district do they represent?
52nd district is, hang on, going back. 52nd district is, I lost it, is Jessica Colazo. 37th district is Greg Hart. 43rd district is Celeste Rodriguez. The no votes were 21st district, Diane Papin. 38th district, Steve Bennett. 77th district, Tasha Boner. I don't know what it is.
Burner. It's Burner.
2nd district, Chris Rogers. Now the yes votes were 80th district, David Alvarez. Email him, call him, leave him a message, says thank you. Anna Marie Avila Farias, 15th district.
That it's gonna work?
What's that? Oh, this is why we mute him.
Oh, gotcha. I think I got.
Jasmeet Kaur Baines, 35th district. Jeff Gonzalez, he's the vice chair, 36th district. And David Tangiba, 8th district. Alexander Macedo, 33rd district. Those are all yes votes. I'll post this. I think Rowdy, looks like Rowdy already did, actually. Yeah, Rowdy posted it. I'll repost this too. You need to know who's standing up for you. You know, the people voting no, people voting yes. maybe get hold of them and leave a message or email them and say, hey, man, what do you think's really happening here? So I think we need to do our best to help California out. You know, I think the only kind of brainwashed idiot there, the people who voted no or didn't vote at all, honestly.
I can kind of see people that are from, if they're from a district that's nowhere near the bear population, if they stay out of the vote, I could kind of see that being fair. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want some representative from New Hampshire saying we run the lines or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, and they make it, again, even in California, they make it they're running amok. She even said they attack people, pets, you know. It's the same old argument. And she said, we have proof of it. The proof in Arizona, where they said that, was Cochise County, and it happened on private property.
Yeah.
So
they should have to show it. That 2 minutes to impress the masses in a popularity contest, that's just an ineffective way to do good business.
Well, and that
You
lady,
talking about that dog bite down by Douglas?
Cochise County, that's 10 babies.
Yeah, it wasn't even a hound.
It was a red bone. It was a red dog. Red bone, they called it. I got the police report.
That was in Phoenix where the red bone bit.
No, I got the police report for Cochise County, and it's listed as a red bone.
I googled it, and it was a freaking.
I got the police report.
You're lying.
I'll
know how
send
to
it to you.
undercover.
I know how to mute you. So, I mean, it's either, no matter what, if it was in Phoenix or it's on private property, regardless, it wasn't a hound attack out in the middle of nowhere, like they keep complaining. San Luis count and everything that and I said is BS. Let me post that. Everything and I said is BS. We're on 20 acres, and the bears moved into our neighborhood where there's a lot more bears. There's a lot of bears, man. They need to be thinned out, just like anything else. Just like the wolves. They argue with the wolves. Oh, they can manage themselves. Then why are we feeding wolves 4,000 pounds a damn month in southern Arizona? Who pays for that, guys? We do. Bear comes down to eat because they've eaten all the food in the forest. Yep. They are overpopulated. If you seriously have 80,000 bears, even 60, even 40.
Yeah, even 40, 35.
What do all these states have? 3,000, 4,000, 5,000? So even, how many bears is 20,000 bears having? Even if you said there's only 20,000 bears in there, how many every year, if 40% of them are females, even 30%, and let's just say 50% of those had babies, that's still 15,000 bears, right? So even if they just had one baby.
Yeah.
And
only Alaska can support those kind of numbers.
Yeah.
And even their culling bears, they just killed 300 of them this past winter out of helicopters.
And there's their reason. There's a reason to bring grizzlies in to eat all the black bears. That's what they're going to use.
That's what they'll do.
Mm-hmm.
And they think black bears killing one old lady's bad. Wait till them brown bears start snatching up hikers.
Yep. Watching the both. Oh yeah, they're all. Once California, they will get their dogs back, and when they do, it'll just like domino effect one way, it'll go the other way. You watch Oregon or Washington, one of them will follow suit.
Yep.
What's on the border right there? Oregon. How many of those bears are going up that way?
They got a ton of bears too, and I've only been in the Rogue Valley up there. And there's
Can
bears
you even
all
hunt
over.
bears in Oregon?
Yes. Believe.
You could be making money from. Oh yeah, this is exactly right here.
You can't hunt them with dogs.
No, that's low hanging fruit, man. Low hanging fruit. So there we have it. Take your money, go hunt Africa, and pay attention to California, guys.
Yeah.
They'll be back. They did a reconsideration, and everybody voted for reconsideration. Now, what they're going to probably do is come back and say, okay, we can't hunt them. But I said, well, why don't you make a hot map, just like Nevada did on coyotes, where you look at it, the redder the more populated. And let's make kill zones. Let's hunt them in this area, this hot spot, not all over the state, maybe just a couple hot spots. And why don't you take one little district, hunt them, and see then? They won't do that because they're afraid to.
Well, because they know it'll work. They don't want new science. They don't want capture, recapture DNA studies. All they got to do is collar a bear, trank it, take hair, and do that for a few months. They'll get a DNA analysis of the area. All of a sudden, you know for a fact how many bears you've got, how many different family lines you've got.
Chris, change the name underneath Jared thumbnail from Deliverance to Gay Hat Guy.
Hey, don't hate the wide brim.
Yep. Well, I got to get up at 2 a.m. I'm sick of California talk and politics talk and Nevada talk, and it's stuff that attention needs to be brought to, because the antis are spreading BS. So what we have to do is counterbalance that with our own facts. If they say there's 30,000 bears, we have to make sure we know there's 60,000 bears. If they say the lady didn't get killed or it's her fault, I mean, that's just, I want to make something on that and say, this is kind of, you're blaming an old lady, an elderly lady, for feeding her cats because that's bear bait. So what do? You hide in your house. The sheriff said they got a crazy amount of calls.
Yep. The sheriff said 200, and then the large carnivore biologist said 600 between him and 2 other biologists.
Well, the sheriff was just in his own county.
Yeah, just in his county. But in the same district, they had 800 calls from those 4 people. That's absurd.
Yep.
That is absurd. That is how many.
But there's not that many bears as they say. There's not that many. They say what they want to say, and they honestly believe what they're saying. And I don't know how you can do that. I mean, they believe, that old lady there believes that you can just throw a rock at a bear and it'll go away. And this is coming from the Bear League. That guy's from the Bear League who said use dogs.
A well-placed pine cone, he said. What a fool.
As the one guy said, his dad threw a 2x4 at a bear, hit him in the forehead, he left, and then came back charging. But he didn't.
And how you like that?
He didn't use a pine cone.
Yeah.
And then he said he took care of him.
Each animal answers different from pressure and release.
Yep.
Either it's going to run away from it or it's going to meet it head on.
Mm-hmm. Well, you threw it at a bear, hit him in the head. He went off, got pissed off, and came back.
Yep.
600. Oh, it must be nuisance calls. So pay attention, California guys. We'll keep bringing you what we got. We'll let you know what's going on in Nevada. We had to send Jared over there to take care of business. Oh, wait, I wasn't supposed to say that out loud.
Don't worry, I'm going hunting with Rowdy tomorrow.
Nice.
Hashtag undercover guy.
Yeah, you should have got an Arizona license first and went over there and killed all the lions. You should have went up northeast.
He should have took one of our trucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got some plates you can use.
Oh, God.
Well, there you have it. That's
All
what's
my
going
tires
on.
get slashed. Game department's going to get called. People saying I'm driving across the desert.
Yep. We'll keep you informed. Other than that, I'm going to go pack up. I got to go do inspection in the morning in Phoenix. It's probably 200 degrees there.
Hey, when I got home today, it was 91.
Mm-hmm. So, but if anybody wants to, I went to a seminar this week and learned a lot of stuff. So that's what everybody who's donated. Oh, Madison, we're at $1,000.
Yeah.
$500 more. If you guys want to donate, help Madison. She's on her way to Arizona. So I guess I should start buying all her stuff. We got some money saved up for her, so we'll get that ordered. We got about 1,000 something. I did a little TikTok and some stuff on that Biddy. Gosh dang it. The guy, yeah, I'm bad with names, man. Maybe I'm just getting old. Troy Biddy. And he's talking on his tailgate. $250 to Madison. So We need $500 more. So if anybody wants to donate, go to azwda.com and donate some money, whether it's $1, $10, $20, $250, or $500.
You dirty buggers.
$500 more to get Madison her dog. So thank you, Michael. I hate talking politics. I really do. I'd rather be telling stories. I would have rather kept Moody on for the whole time and just let him tell us stories.
That'd be a good deal.
When you got like this is maybe this is just politics season. I've been trying to structure the show a little better. That's why I save all these things on it, because a lot of people, and you guys can go to azwda.com and just go to media, and all that stuff's on there. I put the whole video on there. You can watch the whole video. So there you go. There goes old Mr. Anderson stepping up again, another $250.
Thank you.
We need $250 more. Yep.
That fellow there is gold. He's pure gold.
Well, I figured he's
sweetheart.
just paying for the shit talk to Jared. It cost him $250 to say what he wants.
I'll take
Appreciate it, Mr. Anderson. And he did. He already gave $100. I did a social media, guys. Share. We're taking these, putting it on social media. And you guys don't think it matters, but one share does matter. And just to get the word out, there's a lot of people who don't even know what's going on. The AB 1038, what is that? I've been so busy. I feel almost guilty that I didn't really put this out more. But I bet you we got them hundreds of calls that day even. So we're doing our best. And this is what I was going with your money. All this money we're getting. I say all this money. It's not a lot. It's a lot to us. It paid for me to go to a seminar and learn the lobbyist stuff, the C4 or the banquet stuff. Like, it was worth the money to go there. It cost me some gas money. So
You're fine.
Jared beating his dog right on camera.
No. She's
Who
got an
else will-
abscess right on the rear, and I'm trying to pop it.
Who else will step up? Yes, I enjoy picking on Jared. Sarah needs to learn how to dress him. Maybe we'll after we get all this money for Madison and get her going. Maybe we'll raise money for a decent shirt and a hat for Jared.
It's a Carhartt sweatshirt.
Oh,
come on now.
All right, guys.
AWDA is becoming fashion forward now.
Thank you, Mr. Cooley. Thank you, Mr. Cooley, for giving us Ken Moody. So
Yes, sir.
that was very interesting, and I'm going to be his friend. So everybody needs a PI in his back pocket. So anyways, go if you want to listen to this while you're driving, because it's hard sometimes watching it and listen to it. You can go to just look up Spotify. I think I'm on a lot of them, but Spotify and Apple podcasts are kind of the main ones. Or you can go to rss.com. That's our platform. And just type in Freecasting. Just look up Freecasting, any of those, and you'll find us. I think that's all I got to say. I got to get up at 3 a.m. So,
Sir.
Thanks everybody coming on. Thanks everybody for listening. Like I said, $250 more now. And we'll get Madison her dog. She's on her way to Arizona, I believe, right now. So they're probably going to sneak in on me, and I'm going to be busy, and I'm going to have to cancel stuff. So other than that, see you next Wednesday. Jared, we can't see you, but this is where you look real good now. It's much better.
Yeah.
You son of a gun.
Get one caught in the morning, buddy.
Yep. All right, guys. Next Wednesday.
Yep. See you guys later.
Later.
Yeah.